Chapter 1658. This scene was far beyond his expectations. Because when he saved everyone, he didn't think so much at all. In short, he didn't ask for anything in return. But he didn't expect that because of this matter, he had completely subdued these people. Especially Li Yun. She actually announced the dissolution of Fengtian Palace. How much courage did she have to make such a choice? The inner demons walked to Qin Feiyang and said lightly, "Losing cultivation and wealth to gain people's hearts, is this a loss or a gain?" "A deal?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and frowned at the inner demons. "Everyone is sincere, how can it be called a deal? You continue to create. Sooner or later you will kill yourself." The inner demons snorted and directly returned to the inner world. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. It seemed that his use of the fourth move, the Gate of Rebirth, had annoyed the inner demons. Shaking his head, he looked at Willow Tree and the others and said with a smile, "Get up, we will be a family in the future, no need to be so polite."
Yes.
Everyone bowed and got up one after another. "Wait, why don't I see Chang'er and the others?" A woman suddenly spoke. It was Li Yun's wife. She glanced at the crowd around, her eyes full of panic. Hearing this, everyone hurriedly helped to look for him. But there were only 100 people here. Looking through the crowd, they didn't see Li Chang. Moreover, Li Chang's two brothers were also not found. "Why don't I see Shi Meng?" Zhao Tailai suddenly exclaimed. "Zhao Shimeng is also missing?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Ning Mingi also said, "And Yining and Yang, they are also not here." "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang glanced at the crowd. Indeed, he didn't find Zhao Shimeng, Li Chang, Ning Yifeng, Ning Yang, and Li Chang's two brothers. Where did these people go? Could it be that they weren't reborn? But it was impossible. He could resurrect 1,000 people now, and there were less than 1,000 people here. "Young master, what's going on?
Where are they?"
Ning Mingi, Li Yun, and Zhao Tailai looked at Qin Feiyang and asked. "I don't know either." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Ling Yunfei asked, "Where were they originally?" "When we were fighting with the fire dragon, we were afraid that something would happen to them, so we left them in the spatial divine item." "Wait. They can't still be inside the spatial divine object, right?" Li Yun hurriedly checked the spatial divine item, but she realized that it had not been reborn.
"Oh no,"
Qin Feiyang said. "What is it?" Everyone looked at him in surprise. Luo Qingzhu asked, "Feiyang, could it be that the people who died in the spatial divine object can't be reborn?"
"No.
As long as you have a little bit of blood, you can be reborn." And now, they haven't been reborn. This can only mean one thing. They have been annihilated along with the spatial divine item. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. "Annihilated." Zhao Tailai, Ning Mingi, and Li Yun trembled both physically and mentally. Zhao Tailai hurriedly ran up, grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand, and begged, "Young master, you have to save them." Ning Mingi and Li Yun also looked at Qin Feiyang with pleading faces. "There's no other way." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Zhao Tailai cried anxiously, "You're so powerful, how can there be no other way?" "Calm down. Can't you see that boss's cultivation is gone? Even if we find Zhao Shiming and the others' blood now, we can't save them." Fatso said angrily. Zhao Tailai's body trembled, and he collapsed to the ground powerlessly. His eyes were empty and lifeless as he muttered, "I only have one daughter. God, why did you do this to me?" Ning Mingi and Li Yun also lowered their heads, their faces full of sadness. "Damn small beast, I swear, I will kill you." Suddenly, Zhao Tailai roared, his killing intent soaring to the sky. Qin Feiyang sighed softly, patted Zhao Tailai's shoulder, and comforted him, "My condolences. Let them calm down. Now let's think about how to take back Chang Shui." Fatso glanced at them and looked at Qin Feiyang. As soon as he heard Chang Shui, Qin Feiyang clenched his hands, and a strong murderous intent burst out from his eyes. But then, he weakly let go of his hands. Now that he had lost his cultivation, how could he take back Chang Shui from small beast? Wasn't this a daydream? "Boss, you can't be discouraged. Have you forgotten? Chang Shui is the only thing your mother left for you." Fatso said.
"Mother."
Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled.
"Right."
He couldn't be discouraged. Wasn't it just the loss of his cultivation? He could just cultivate again. Although we lost a lot this time, such as everyone's divine artifacts, herbs, and so on, as long as we are still alive, everything can be redone. I also promise you that in the future, each of you will have a divine artifact of your own. As for now, the fake god will stay here first, and the others will follow me to the castle to cultivate. Willow Tree, Yu Huang, you guys come with me. Qin Feiyong regained his composure and said to everyone. Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyong looked at Ling Yunfei. Ling Yunfei understood and led Qin Feiyong, Fatso, and the others White-Eyed Wolf, and other beasts to appear in the castle. Let's cultivate in seclusion. Strength is the most important. If we don't have enough strength, we're just ants. Qin Feiyong looked at Fatso and the others and said. Ling Yunfei took out a Chenkuan bag and smiled. I still have a lot of battle chi pills here, you guys use them first. Fatso and the others nodded and took the Chenkuan bag. After distributing some battle chi pills to each of them, they sat cross-legged and entered a state of cultivation. Dan Wangkai also went into seclusion to cultivate. Because his alchemy fire had also been annihilated. Although the nether devil flame was still there was no 9th grade pill furnace. Moreover, even if his alchemy fire was still there, he couldn't refine pills now because he didn't have the herbs. So he could only choose to cultivate. Willow Tree glanced at everyone, looked at Qin Feiyong, and said, Young master, the most important thing is to find the herbs. After all, so many people need to cultivate, how can there be no herbs? There's no rush. We still have a lot of blood-devouring bees' honey, which is enough for everyone to cultivate. I think we should go to the main hall to take a look now. Because Zhuge Mingyang is still outside. Ling Yunfei said. Qin Feiyong nodded, looked at Ling Yunfei and said, How about this, Willow Tree and Yu Huang will accompany me outside. You go back and continue to comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god. When Li Yun and the others calm down, let them out. Okay, if there's anything, remember to inform me. After Ling Yunfei finished speaking, he disappeared. Willow Tree looked at Qin Feiyong and asked, Young master, can you still control the castle now?
No. But I can go out.
After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he took Willow Tree and Yu Huang and appeared in the desert.
Woo-woo.
A terrifying storm swept over. Willow Tree hurriedly took Qin Feiyong and rushed into the main hall within 100 feet. There was no storm within 100 feet, so it was very safe. And after the battle ended, the place returned to peace. That bastard is really here. Yu Huang thought, his eyes as gloomy as water. In front of the main hall, Zhuge Mingyang looked at the door, holding his chin, his face full of confusion. Qin Feiyong glanced at Zhuge Mingyang, took out the castle, and handed it to Willow Tree. Before my cultivation recovers, you keep the castle. I will take good care of it. Willow Tree said solemnly. Let's go. After Willow Tree kept the castle, Qin Feiyong waved his hand and walked towards Zhuge Mingyang. What is he thinking? He didn't even notice our aura. Yu Huang looked at Zhuge Mingyang and asked suspiciously. He should be thinking about how to open the door of the main hall. Qin Feiyong guessed. If that's the case, why don't we take the opportunity to kill him now? Yu Huang thought, killing intent flashing in his eyes. I agree. Willow Tree said. Let's do it. A sinister smile appeared on Yu Huang's face. She changed the color of her skin, blending together with the yellow sand as she silently sped towards Zhuge Mingyang. Seeing Yu Huang approaching step by step and about to succeed, Zhuge Mingyang suddenly raised his eyebrows, and a terrifying aura burst out. He was caught off guard. Instead, Yu Huang was sent flying. Zhuge Mingyang turned his head to look at Qin Feiyong. When he saw Lu Mu at the side, a hint of bewilderment instantly crept into his eyes. He said, Didn't you die? I'm lucky I didn't die. Willow Tree sneered. Yu Huang also appeared next to Qin Feiyong, staring coldly at Zhuge Mingyang. You're not dead. Zhuge Mingyang looked at Yu Huang in shock. Yu Huang snorted, You're a scourge, how can we be willing to die when you're not dead? Zhuge Mingyang glanced at the man and beast, and looked at Qin Feiyong in disbelief. How did you do it? Wait, where's your cultivation? Why is it gone? Qin Feiyong ignored him and scanned the main hall. Zhuge Mingyang frowned. Could it be that the resurrection of Willow Tree and Yu Huang had something to do with Qin Feiyang's cultivation? Willow Tree and Yu Huang had been resurrected. Then did that mean the others had been resurrected as well? Qin Feiyang stepped forward and asked, "Why are you still standing outside?" Zhuge Mingyang suppressed the doubts in his heart and turned around to look at the door of the Great Hall. He said angrily, "I've tried everything, but I just can't open this door. You should know how to open it." "I don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "You don't know?" Zhuge Mingyang was stunned and frowned. "Then why are you here?" "Brother Qin, we're old friends. Why are you hiding it from me?" "Old friends? Weren't you happy when Willow Tree and the others were killed?" Qin Feiyang sneered. Hearing this, Willow Tree and Yu Huang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Zhuge Mingyang smiled embarrassedly and said, "That was a joke, how can you take it seriously, right?" Qin Feiyang glanced at him and took a few steps back, looking at Willow Tree and Yu Huang, saying, "Try and see if you can open the door." Zhuge Mingyang sneered, "Even I can't do it, do you think they can?" "How will we know if we don't try?" Lu Mu coldly snorted. He transmitted his voice. "Yu Huang, go and protect the young master. You have to be careful. Right now, you don't have a divine weapon. You aren't a match for Zhuge Mingyang." "Got it," Baiming Yu Huang silently replied. After that, she sped towards Qin Feiyang with lightning speed. Zhuge Mingyang glanced at the two men and the beast and also retreated to the side. Chapter 1659. Willow Tree stared at the door, his 5 fingers clenched into a fist, constantly accumulating power. "Ha!" Suddenly, he roared. He punched the door. The power of the false god rolled out. A loud bang resounded through the sky. However, the door didn't move at all. So strong. Willow Tree raised his eyebrows. He took out the castle, poured the power of the false god into it, and smashed the door. Clang! The door still didn't move. "Let's try together?" Zhuge Mingyang stepped forward and looked at Willow Tree. "Okay." Willow Tree glanced at him and nodded. Boom! The two of them slapped at the same time. And they used all their strength. But the result was still useless. Willow Tree said angrily, "Even this can't open it?" "Stop," Qin Feiyang said. Willow Tree turned to look at Qin Feiyang, lowered his head and said, "This subordinate is incompetent. It's not your fault." I suddenly remembered that when the fire dragon blasted the door with his divine power, the door didn't even tremble, let alone you. Qin Feiyang said. "Then how do we open it?" Willow Tree raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang stepped forward, glanced at the door and said, "There should be some mechanism. I've searched everywhere outside this hall, but I didn't find any mechanism at all." Zhuge Mingyang shook his head, then looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "You really don't know how to open it?" Qin Feiyang said, "If I knew, would I let Willow Tree spend so much effort? Then who knows? What if you saw me here and let Willow Tree put on an act?" Zhuge Mingyang sneered. "Do you think I'm a villain like you?" Qin Feiyang retorted. Zhuge Mingyang raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang ignored him and walked to the front door, reaching out to touch the door. An ice-cold chill immediately spread from his palm to his heart. There was no mechanism. Brute force would not be able to break it. Didn't this mean that there was no way to enter the hall at all? Back then, the mysterious man had said that it would be very difficult to enter this hall, and it turned out to be true. "Do I need blood?" Qin Feiyang suddenly froze. Some of the doors had undergone special treatment and required a certain person's blood to open. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhuge Mingyang and asked, "Have you tested it with your blood?" "I've tried." Zhuge Mingyang nodded. Obviously. This method wouldn't work either. Otherwise, Zhuge Mingyang would have already gone in. After thinking for a moment, Zhuge Mingyang added, "You can give it a try. After all, your purple gold dragon blood is even more noble than our bloodline power." Qin Feiyang said, "Why do I feel that your words sound so sarcastic?" "It's the truth. You're thinking too much," Zhuge Mingyang said. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and bit the tip of his index finger. A drop of purple gold dragon blood appeared. His cultivation was abolished, but his bloodline power was not. And his potential imprint was still there. This was the biggest reason why he regained his confidence. As long as the purple gold dragon blood and potential imprint were there, It wouldn't take much time even if he cultivated again. He raised his index finger and pressed it on the door. But after waiting for a long time, the door didn't respond at all. Zhuge Mingyang raised the corner of his mouth and said lightly, "It seems that your bloodline power is nothing special. Do you think it will affect me if you mock me like this?"
It won't.
On the contrary, it will make you look ridiculous," Qin Feiyong said contemptuously. Zhuge Mingyang suddenly had a trace of hostility between his eyebrows. Qin Feiyong ignored it and raised his arm again, pressing it on the stone door and pushing it hard. Boom! Just as he pushed, the stone door actually made a deafening sound. This sudden change scared Willow Tree and Qin Feiyong so much that they hurriedly retreated. Yu Huang and Zhuge Mingyang also retreated at lightning speed. The 3 people and 1 beast sized up the stone door, their eyes full of surprise. The rumbling sound gradually dissipated. But the stone door was still tightly shut. There was nothing unusual, and nothing jumped out of the hole. Was it an illusion? Zhuge Mingyang asked. We all heard it. How could it be an illusion? Willow Tree rolled his eyes and turned to Qin Feiyong saying, "I'll go take a look."
Yes.
Qin Feiyong nodded. If it was before, he would definitely go by himself. But now it was different. Not to mention that his cultivation was destroyed, the castle was also with Willow Tree. If anything happened, even the gods couldn't save him. Willow Tree slowly stepped forward, his face full of vigilance. When he walked to the door, he carefully looked at the door. A trace of surprise gradually crept up in his eyes. Suddenly, his eyes were fixed on the center of the door. Soon, a trace of ecstasy crept up his face and he shouted, "Young master, come here, there is a crack in the door."
What?
A crack in the door. Hearing that, Yu Huang immediately took Qin Feiyong and rushed to Willow Tree's side. Zhuge Mingyang also ran over with a look of bewilderment. Willow Tree pointed to the door and finally said, "See." The 2 people and 1 beast looked at the place where Willow Tree was pointing, and their eyes suddenly lit up. The whole door was originally one, without any cracks. But at this moment, there was a small crack in the center of the door. Although it was very small and almost impossible to see with the naked eye, it did exist. Yu Huang said in astonishment, "Does this mean that the door has been opened?" Hearing Yu Huang's words, Zhuge Mingyang immediately stepped forward and slapped the door. With a bang, the stone door remained motionless. The crack in the door didn't change at all. "I don't believe this," Zhuge Mingyang said angrily, and then punched the door with all his strength. As a result, not only did he not blast the door open, but his arm was numb from the shock.
What's going on?
He was puzzled. Yu Huang and Willow Tree also frowned. Suddenly, the 2 people and 1 beast looked at Qin Feiyong together.
Why are you looking at me?
Qin Feiyong was suspicious.
No.
I remember that earlier, it was because you pushed the door with all your might that the rumbling sound was heard. Furthermore, a crack appeared on the door. I think it must have something to do with you, Zhuge Mingyang said. Qin Feiyong was stunned and shook his head. It should be a coincidence. I'm just a mortal now, and my strength is much weaker than yours. If you can't open the door, how can I open it? That's true. Zhuge Mingyang nodded. Even he, a fake god, couldn't open the door. How could a mortal open the door? Willow Tree pondered for a while, looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Young master, why don't you try again? Who knows? Maybe this door will only give you face." Only give me face? Do you think I'm the god of creation? Why should it give me face? Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly, but did as he was told. He went forward and pressed the stone door and pushed hard. Bang! That deafening noise sounded again. Willow Tree, Yu Huang, and Zhuge Mingyang looked at each other. Was it really because of Qin Feiyong? Qin Feiyong was also shocked. What the hell was going on? When he came back to his senses, he looked at the door gap and found that the door gap had become a little wider. "Young master, it's really giving you face," Willow Tree said excitedly. "It doesn't make sense. Even I, a semi-divinity, am unable to smash it open. How can a powerless mortal like him be able to push it open?" Zhuge Mingyang wailed. "That's my luck," Yu Huang said proudly. "What does this have to do with luck?" Zhuge Mingyang rolled his eyes. Willow Tree thought for a while and asked, "Young master, do you think this hall has something to do with you?" Qin Feiyong was speechless. Like you, this is my first time here. What can I do with it? Maybe it's just like Yu Huang said. I have a good luck. Zhuge Mingyang's face twitched. This bastard said that he was fat and he really panted. Yu Huang urged, since you can open it, hurry up and see what's inside. Qin Feiyong nodded. This time, he pressed his hands on the stone door and pushed hard. Rumble. The loud noise was deafening again. The door gap also became wider and wider. The door of the palace was as big as a mountain. Qin Feiyong stood under the door like a tiny ant. But at this moment, he, the ant, was really pushing down the elephant in front of him little by little. As the door opened, a vast aura surged out of the hall. Whether it was Willow Tree, Yu Huang, or Zhuge Mingyang, they all felt a kind of fear from the soul.
It was as if there was an ancient divine king lurking in this hall.
As a mortal, he is actually more outstanding than me. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Zhuge Mingyang looked at Qin Feiyong's back and felt very unbalanced. Qin Feiyong was so tired that he was sweating profusely. Although he could open the door, he had to use all his strength. Fortunately, his current body was still the body of a false god. Otherwise, he would be exhausted. Rumble. After a long time, the door was finally opened half a meter wide, which was enough to enter. But inside, it was pitch black. Even the three false gods, Willow Tree, Yu Huang, and Zhuge Mingyang, couldn't tear open the darkness and see what was inside. Feeling. Behind this door, it was like a dark bottomless abyss that no one dared to set foot in. Willow Tree turned to look at Zhuge Mingyang and joked, "Didn't you want to go in? Now that the door has been opened by the young master, why are you still standing here?" Zhuge Mingyang said without blushing, "We are partners. Of course, we should share the joys and sorrows." "Partners?"
Willow Tree snorted and whispered, "Young master, I will go in first to explore.
Wait for me here."
Okay.
Qin Feiyong nodded. Willow Tree then transmitted his voice to Yu Huang. "You must be careful of Zhuge Mingyang and protect the young master."
"Don't worry,"
Yu Huang said secretly. Willow Tree looked up at the dark area behind the stone door, took a deep breath, and stepped forward.
Buzz.
But before his step landed, a white light curtain appeared in front of him and directly bounced Willow Tree away.
Ha!
Qin Feiyong, Yu Huang, and Zhuge Mingyang were surprised. After Willow Tree stabilized his body, he returned to Qin Feiyong's side with a look of surprise on his face. Qin Feiyong said, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Willow Tree waved his hand and frowned. "The door has been opened. Why can't we go in?"
"Let me try."
Yu Huang rose into the air and flew inside. But the result was also blocked by the light curtain. Chapter 1660. The light curtain flickered with dim divine light, like a natural moat, blocking in front of Qin Feiyong and the others. Zhuge Mingyang frowned and looked at Qin Feiyong.
"Brother Qin, why don't you try?"
"Yes. Maybe only the one who pushes open the stone door can go in." Willow Tree's eyes lit up as he guessed. Hearing Willow Tree's words, Zhuge Mingyang's eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of coldness. "What do you want to do?" Willow Tree immediately stared at Zhuge Mingyang gloomily. "What do you mean, what do I want to do? What do I want to do?" Zhuge Mingyang was stunned. "Don't think I didn't see the cold light in your eyes. Let me tell you, if you dare to do anything, I will drag you to hell even if I have to self-destruct," Willow Tree said in a deep voice. "What cold light? I don't know what you are talking about," Zhuge Mingyang said expressionlessly. "Humph." Willow Tree snorted and said in a low voice, "Young master, go ahead. Yu Huang and I will watch outside."
Okay.
Qin Feiyong nodded, glanced at Zhuge Mingyang, and stepped forward. As a result, the light curtain in front of him was as if it was nothing and he directly crossed it. "How can this be? I don't accept this. Why can only he go in and I can't?" Seeing this, Zhuge Mingyang's killing intent suddenly rose and he slapped at Qin Feiyong's back. Qin Feiyong saw that the situation was not good, and his other foot quickly followed in. At that moment, Qin Feiyong disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Zhuge Mingyang slapped at the light curtain and a terrifying force came from the light curtain. He immediately flew out with a scream and smashed into the yellow sand, looking extremely embarrassed. "Do you know what this is called? You reap what you sow." Willow Tree and Yu Huang turned to look at Zhuge Mingyang and gloated. You reap what you sow? I think you're courting death. Zhuge Mingyang was infuriated. His bone dragon battle soul appeared and he immediately activated his special ability. The cultivation of the Willow Tree and Yu Huang began to plummet. Willow Tree's eyes flashed with killing intent. He immediately led Yu Huang into the castle. Zhuge Mingyang was stunned. A trace of mockery crawled up his face as he said, "Let's see how long you can hide." Subsequently, he strode to the gate and stood guard there. His fighting soul and innate divine ability did not dissipate. Inside the castle, Willow Tree looked at Zhuge Mingyang through the screen with a gloomy face. Not good.
This bastard is obviously waiting outside for Qin Feiyong.
When Qin Feiyong comes out, he will probably be killed by him.
Yu Huang said worriedly.
I won't let him succeed.
As soon as the young master appears, I will immediately go out.
Even if I have to risk my life, I will protect the young master. Willow Tree said word by word. And then there was Qin Feiyong.
The moment he entered the main hall, his eyes lit up.
At this moment, he was standing at the entrance of the main hall, less than 2 or 3 meters away from Zhuge Mingyang. Moreover, he could clearly see Zhuge Mingyang. But Zhuge Mingyang couldn't see him. And in front of him was an extremely huge hall? Yes. In the air above, there was a diamond-shaped crystal stone. That crystal stone was the size of an adult's palm. It had distinct edges and corners, like a sparkling and translucent diamond, blooming with bright light. Woo! Looking for? Fierce quail. Before. The vast qi that gushed out of the main hall came from that crystal stone. But the whole hall? Woo? Fourth knock poison? Shi Lai Imu? Ew. There was no room. There were no tables and chairs. There was no trace of anyone. It seemed extremely empty. Qin Feiyong turned his head and glanced at Zhuge Mingyang. Glancing around the huge hall? Wu? Wu Jun of the Broken Skeleton Dam Bloody Temple. His voice echoed in the hall for a long time. No one responded to him for a long time. Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment. Then he carefully walked around the hall. Wu Jun Su Hu Chu? He Xian? Wu Jun. At last. After walking around the hall, he finally confirmed that he was the only one here. The mysterious man said that there was a treasure here that could control the Black Tortoise realm. But where is the treasure? Qin Feiyong looked around suspiciously. Suddenly, he looked at the crystal stone floating in the middle. Is it the treasure that the mysterious man said? He walked forward slowly, always vigilant. He walked to the bottom of the crystal stone and looked up at it. Is this really the treasure that the mysterious man said? After pondering for a while, he gritted his teeth, jumped up, grabbed the crystal stone, and landed steadily on the ground. No danger? Looking at the crystal stone in his hand, he was quite surprised. He thought that this crystal stone might have hidden killing intent. But now there was no change at all. He worried for nothing. But the next moment, the crystal stone released a horrible qi. Without hesitation, Qin Feiyong hurriedly threw away the crystal. However, although the crystal stone was thrown away, the qi emitted by the crystal stone did not disappear. Like a tide, it rushed toward Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong's expression changed. He quickly turned around and ran away. Because this qi for him now was like the power of heaven. Even his body was cracking. Soon, his whole body was stained with purple gold dragon blood, like a bloody man. Damn the mysterious man. He lied to me. Qin Feiyong cursed and ran toward the gate without hesitation. But when he hit the light curtain was not as invisible as when he came in before. It blasted him out on the spot and rolled on the ground awkwardly. That qi also shrouded him. He could not move at all, like a fish on the chopping board. His fleshly body continued to crack. However, he could only watch as all of this happened. He was powerless to stop it. The purple gold dragon blood flowed all over the ground. The heart-wrenching pain hit every nerve in his body, making him feel worse than death. I didn't die in the small beast's hands, but I still die here. Is this fate? I'm doomed to die. Qin Feiyong was desperate. The qi emitted by the crystal stone, like ice, imprisoned him on the ground. Crack. Gradually, His body was torn apart and eaten by the crystal stone little by little. His consciousness also disappeared on the spot. Bastard, let him go! The inner demons rushed out of the inner world and pounced on the crystal stone crazily. Because the inner world he was in had also collapsed. And he could clearly sense that Qin Feiyong was on the verge of death step by step. Once Qin Feiyong died, as the inner demons, he would also be annihilated. However, in front of the crystal stone, the inner demons were inferior to ants. Not only were they imprisoned in an instant, but even he could not escape the fate of being eaten by the crystal stone. His consciousness quickly dissipated. In the end, Qin Feiyong and the inner demons disappeared in the hall. Not even a hair was left, as if they had never been here. The purple-gold dragon blood on the ground was also absorbed by the crystal stone. Then, the crystal stone rose into the air, returned to its original position, and fell silent. Boom! The gate of the palace also closed. The hall gradually returned to silence. The gate closed? Outside. Looking at the closed gate, Zhuge Mingyang's face was full of suspicion. In the castle, Willow Tree and Yu Huang were also confused. Suddenly, Willow Tree's eyes trembled. He looked at Yu Huang and said in surprise, "Why can't I feel the existence of the slave seal?" What? The slave seal disappeared? Yu Huang's body trembled. Fatso and the others also suddenly opened their eyes and got up to look at Willow Tree. Willow Tree carefully sensed for a moment and looked at everyone. The slave seal has indeed disappeared. When did it disappear? Lu Hong asked quickly. This, Willow Tree could not answer. Because he had been worried about Qin Feiyong before, so he did not pay attention to it. When we entered the miracle, weren't we also controlled by little Qin Zi with the slave seal? Quickly check, is our slave seal still there? White-Eyed Wolf urged. Yes. I actually forgot about this. Fatso patted his head hard. Immediately after, everyone closed their eyes one after another. Only Miss Longfeng and Yu Huang did not close their eyes. The reason for that was because her slave imprint had already been removed by Qin Feiyong when he found her. As for Yu Huang, Qin Feiyong had never controlled him. A moment later, White-Eyed Wolf, Fatso, and the others opened their eyes. Their eyes were full of disbelief. The slave seal had indeed disappeared. Boss! Fatso cried out in grief. What the hell is going on? What is hidden in the palace? Damn it, how dare you kill little Qin Zi? Willow Tree, take us out immediately and kill our way in. White-Eyed Wolf roared. Don't be impulsive. We can't get in at all. Besides, the door has already been closed. Willow Tree said. So what if it's closed? I don't believe that we can't break it open with so many false gods. White-Eyed Wolf said. Willow Tree said angrily, even the fire dragon's divine power can't break it open. Do you think we can? White-Eyed Wolf was also angry. He rushed in front of Willow Tree and roared, then we can't just stand here and watch. Give me the castle. I can't give it to you. If you run out like this, you'll kill everyone. Because Zhuge Mingyang is still outside. None of us is his match. Willow Tree shook his head. What's a Zhuge Mingyang? Give it to me. White-Eyed Wolf roared. No. Willow Tree shook his head. What? Seeing that little Qin Zi is dead, you want to take the castle for yourself? White-Eyed Wolf laughed sinisterly. I didn't. I'm doing this for your own good. Why don't you understand? If you want the castle, I can give it to you, but you have to wait until we leave the desert. Willow Tree said. Bastard! White-Eyed Wolf was burning with anger and a terrifying aura rose from his body. Seeing that the situation was not good, Fatso, Lu Zhang, the double-winged snow eagle, Dan Wangkai and the others hurried to hold White-Eyed Wolf and persuade him. Brother Wolf, calm down. Willow Tree is right. We can't be impulsive. Little Qin Zi is dead. How can I calm down? Tell me. White-Eyed Wolf roared and 2 drops of blood tears fell from his eyes. Looking at the 2 drops of blood tears, everyone's eyes trembled. How sad must he be to shed blood tears? However, thinking about it, it made sense. The ingrate and Qin Feiyong had known each other since Iron Ox Town. Who knew how much they had gone through together? Although Qin Feiyong and the White-Eyed Wolf did not usually mention this, there was no doubt that their feelings for each other were the deepest. It was even possible that in each other's hearts, They regarded each other as more important than their own lives. It was not difficult to imagine how the white-eyed wolf was feeling at this moment. Everyone fell silent. Chapter 1661. Suddenly, Willow Tree gritted his teeth, looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "All right, let's go out." The white-eyed wolf immediately roared, "Ling Yunfei, come out quickly." Swish! In the next moment, Ling Yunfei appeared. Looking at everyone's sorrowful faces, he asked in surprise, "What happened again?" The white-eyed wolf said with killing intent, "Call out all the fake gods, we'll kill our way out." Kill our way out? Ling Yunfei was stunned. Looking at the main hall and Zhuge Mingyang in front of him, he asked suspiciously, "Did Zhuge Mingyang do something to you guys?" "It's not Zhuge Mingyang." Fatso quickly explained the situation. "What?" Ling Yunfei's body trembled, and he hurriedly entered the space divine object, stood above the medicine field, and roared, "All fake gods, gather quickly." His voice was like a bell, resounding through the sky. Whoosh! One figure after another flew into the sky. Not long later, more than 100 fake gods gathered around Ling Yunfei. Ning Mingyi, Zhao Tailai, Cui Li, and Li Yun were also there. Luo Qingzhu, the Miss of Dragon Phoenix House, and the Crocodile Emperor were also there. "What's wrong?" Looking at the angry and murderous Ling Yunfei, everyone was bewildered. Ling Yunfei said in a deep voice, "Qin Feiyong was killed in that hall." What? When everyone heard this, it was like a bolt from the blue, and their minds rumbled. Feiyong. The Miss of Dragon Phoenix House's body swayed slightly, and she fainted on the spot. Ling Yunfei hurriedly went forward and hugged the Miss of Dragon Phoenix House, only to see that her face was deathly pale. What's going on? Could it be that she also likes Boss Qin? Ling Yunfei was suspicious. Upon hearing the news of Qin Feiyong's death, she actually fainted. He really couldn't find any other reason to explain it. Sister Rushuang, Luo Qingzhu also hurried forward, her face full of concern. Ling Yunfei said, "Don't panic. She's just unconscious. She's fine." Luo Qingzhu let out a sigh of relief. She looked at Ling Yunfei and asked, "Did you personally witness Qin Feiyong's death?" "No. It's Fatso and the others. They said that their enslavement seals have all disappeared." Ling Yunfei said, "Slave seal." Ning Mingyi and the others who were being controlled immediately closed their eyes and tried to sense the existence of the slave seal. "How is it?" Luo Qingzhu looked at them nervously. Zhao Tailai opened his eyes and looked at Luo Qingzhu, saying, "It really has disappeared." Ning Mingyi and the others also nodded at Luo Qingzhu. Luo Qingzhu's body also shook violently as her vision turned dark. Ling Yunfei used his other hand to support Luo Qingzhu. "Wait!" Suddenly, the Golden Wolf King's voice rang out. "What is it?" Everyone looked at it one after another. "Strange. Why didn't this king's slave seal disappear?" The Golden Wolf King asked suspiciously. "Yes, my slave seal didn't disappear either." The Silver Wolf King followed. "And me." The Crocodile Emperor and the other beasts also followed. What? Everyone looked at each other. What was going on? Luo Qingzhu heard this and quivered. She looked at the beasts and asked, "Are you sure?" "Yes." The Golden Wolf King nodded. "So, Qin Feiyong is not dead? But why did Fatso and Ning Mingyi's slave seals disappear?" Ling Yunfei said in surprise. "I don't know." Everyone shook their heads. Wait. Li Yun suddenly opened her mouth and looked at Ling Yunfei. Could it be related to everyone's death? Death. Ling Yunfei was slightly stunned. Then, he became spirited and said excitedly, "Yes, it must be so." At that time, Small Beast will kill all of you. Fatso and Ning Mingyi's slave seals will naturally disappear. Later, Boss Qin saved them, but the slave seals did not regenerate. So why did Fatso's slave seals disappear, but the Golden Wolf King's slave seals are still there? I think Li Jian's slave seal should still be there. I'll go ask him. After Ling Yunfei finished speaking, he immediately disappeared. Why hasn't he come out yet? What is he doing? Inside the castle, the white-eyed wolf was like an ant on a hot pan. He was extremely anxious. Lu Hong said, "Brother Wolf, Feiyong is dead. You are our backbone. You can't panic now. Backbone? I don't even know how he died. What qualifications do I have to be the backbone? It's all my fault.
If I had enough strength, I could have stayed by his side.
Maybe he wouldn't have died.
The white-eyed wolf closed his eyes in pain.
Swish. At this time, Ling Yunfei finally appeared. His face was full of ecstasy. Why did you only come out now? Brother Wolf is so anxious. Lu Hong asked.
Ling Yunfei was about to speak when the white-eyed wolf opened his eyes. Seeing that Ling Yunfei was alone, he immediately said angrily, "Where are Ning Mingi and the others?"
They didn't come out. Ling Yunfei said. They didn't come out?
The white-eyed wolf was instantly furious and roared, "Are they willing to come out?"
No, don't misunderstand. They didn't come out because Boss Qin is not dead. Ling Yunfei quickly said. Not dead?
The white-eyed wolf was stunned and roared, "The slavery seal has disappeared.
How can little Qin Zi not be dead?" It's true.
Although the slavery seals of Fatso and the others have disappeared, the slavery seals of the Golden Wolf King and the others are still there.
And I specially went to find Li Jian. His slavery seal is also there.
What does this mean?
It means that Boss Qin is still alive. Ling Yunfei said. Then how did our enslavement seal disappear? Fatso asked. Ling Yunfei said, We analyzed it inside. It should have something to do with your death. Something to do with our death? Everyone was stunned. The next moment, everyone came to their senses.
Willow Tree asked, "So young master is really not dead?"
Yes.
As long as the slavery seal is still there, he is definitely not dead.
Ling Yunfei nodded.
Willow Tree gave a wry smile and looked at Fatso and the others, saying, "We were too careless to ignore this point."
Yes.
Although the gate of rebirth can bring us back to life, it can't bring other things back to life.
That's something that Boss said himself.
There are so many of us, but none of us remembered it.
We even made such a big mistake.
Fatso shook his head. Thinking of his previous behavior, he couldn't help laughing.
This is called caring makes you confused.
Of course, it's also because we don't care about being controlled by the slavery seal, so we didn't pay special attention to it.
Ling Yunfei said with a smile.
Willow Tree said, "I don't know about the others, but I don't care at all now. It doesn't matter even if I'm controlled by young master."
You've made the right choice. Ling Yunfei looked at Willow Tree and smiled.
Then, he looked at the hall in the image and said, "Although I don't know what happened in the hall, at least I can confirm that Qin Feiyong is still fine. Let's wait here." White-eyed Wolf said, "Even if he's fine now, you have to call Ning Mingi and the others out, just in case."
Okay.
Ling Yunfei nodded and turned to look at White-eyed Wolf, only to see that White-eyed Wolf had secretly wiped the tears of blood from the corners of his eyes. White-eyed Wolf raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "What are you looking at with your little eyes?" Ling Yunfei smiled and said, "Brother Wolf, I didn't expect you to cry and it's—" "Shut up!"
White-eyed Wolf shouted and glared fiercely at Ling Yunfei.
Then he glanced at all the people and dire beasts present and said, "No one is allowed to tell anyone about what happened today, including little Qin Zi. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning against you." Although he had a ferocious look, everyone couldn't help but laugh. White-eyed Wolf's eyes were very fierce at first, but gradually, he couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Time flew by, and half a month passed in the blink of an eye.
What's going on?
Why hasn't young master come out yet? During this half a month, Willow Tree and Yu Huang had been observing the situation in the hall. As for White-eyed Wolf, Fatso and the others, under Ling Yunfei's persuasion, they had already gone into closed-door cultivation that day. After all, the rules of time in the castle were different. Wasting 1 day was equivalent to wasting 10 days. Ning Mingi and the others had also come out and were ready to fight at any time.
Maybe young master encountered an accident inside? Or maybe he's trapped inside. Ning Mingi pondered.
"I'll go ask the Golden Wolf King and the others again to see if the slavery seal is still there,"
Ling Yunfei said and disappeared without a trace.
During this half a month, he went to ask the Golden Wolf King and the others almost every day. Because only when he was sure that the slavery seal was still there, he could feel at ease.
At the same time,
in the hall, everything was the same as before. Except for the crystal,
there was nothing else. It was dead silent. But in another place, a magical scene was happening. This was an ethereal space, boundless and filled with pure white clouds and mist. Somewhere in the clouds, two young men in their 20s were floating in the void. Whether it was appearance, height, or physique, the two looked exactly the same. But there was a difference. The man on the left had black hair like a waterfall. The man on the right had blood-red hair. That's right. The two were Qin Feiyang and the inner demons. At this moment, they seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep, lying quietly in the void with their eyes closed and motionless. Their expressions were extremely peaceful. Even the inner demons didn't have any hostility in their expressions. No one knew how much time had passed. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyelids moved. Then he slowly opened his eyes and looked up in confusion. Where was this? Immediately after, that dusty memory surfaced in his mind. He stood up abruptly and scanned his surroundings in shock. Was this heaven? Wait a minute. Although he wasn't a bad person who did all kinds of evil, he wasn't a good person either. How could he enter heaven? He didn't see any angels either. When he saw the inner demons, he hurried forward and shouted, "Inner demons, wake up!" Soon, the inner demons slowly opened their eyes, looked around suspiciously, and asked, "Where is this? Are we dead?" "I don't know where this is either. As for whether we are dead or not, I can't be sure." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Hearing this, the inner demons raised their hands and slapped Qin Feiyang's face. Chapter 1662. However, just as Qin Feiyang grabbed the inner demon's wrist, a scene that made them turn pale with fright appeared. The inner demon's wrist collapsed on the spot. But that was not the point. The inner demons were a manifestation of consciousness. They had no flesh and blood. It was normal for them to collapse. But Qin Feiyang's hand, under the force, collapsed just like the inner demon's wrist. And there was no blood. What did that mean? It meant that he was not a flesh and blood body now. "You." The inner demon stared at Qin Feiyang's collapsed hand, dumbfounded. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and shook his arm forcefully. At that moment, his entire arm disintegrated and turned into mist. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. "It seems that we are really dead." Because this was the best proof. After a person died, their flesh and blood disappeared. When the inner demons heard this, their faces turned pale and they roared, "What the hell is that damn crystal? Why did it poison us?" Qin Feiyang also frowned. "And you? I don't understand. Have you never doubted that mysterious person's words?" The inner demons looked at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, "I did. But do we have a choice?" "No." The entrance to the Black Tortoise realm disappeared. We can only choose to believe him. This is equivalent to a gamble. Qin Feiyang sighed. The inner demons fell silent. To be honest, although I am a little unwilling to die like this, I feel relieved. Now I am most worried about Fatso and the others. If they can't leave the Black Tortoise realm, where should they go? Qin Feiyang said. You just won't change despite repeated admonitions. You can't even take care of yourself and still think about others all day long. The inner demons rolled their eyes at him, glanced around, and said in a deep voice, "First, let's figure out whether this is hell or heaven." "Does it matter whether it is hell or heaven now?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Of course it matters. In the human world, we can be heroes. Even in heaven and hell, we can still carve out a path for ourselves. The inner demon said domineeringly, "We are already dead. Why are you still thinking about this?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "You live as a hero, die as a ghost hero, don't you understand?" The inner demons glanced at him, with murderous intent flashing in his eyes, waved his hand and said, "Let's go." "Where to go?" Qin Feiyang said hurriedly. Mental demon said, "How would I know? Let's go look around." The two randomly chose a random direction and walked step by step. Ha! Without cultivation, we can still walk in the void. The inner demons was surprised. "We are ghosts now. What's so strange about that?" Qin Feiyang laughed. "How can you still laugh?" The inner demons frowned. "When a person dies, the light goes out. What's there to be unhappy about?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "I just can't accept it.
The inner demons snorted. Suddenly, between the clouds in front, there was a faint light. What's that? The two looked at each other and quickly flew over. Gradually, the light became more and more dazzling. And as they got closer, they also felt a divine power. Could it be that heaven and hell have divine weapons? The two were surprised. A moment later, when the two of them flew out of the clouds, it was as if the clouds had parted to reveal the sun. A scene that shocked the two of them appeared before their eyes. They saw divine weapons of different sizes floating in the void in front of them. There were swords, blades, halberds, axes. There were also spears, bows, daggers, sticks and so on. In short, there were all kinds of weapons in the world here. There were so many of them that they couldn't see the end. Every weapon was emitting a dazzling divine light. Qin Feiyong and the inner demons flew all the way, looking at the divine weapons one by one. Their faces were full of disbelief. In the end, they estimated that there were at least tens of thousands of divine weapons in front of them. Tens of thousands of divine weapons. What kind of concept was that? Even Qin Feiyong's breathing became rapid and his body trembled. This was simply a terrifying divine treasure. What the hell is going on? The inner demons grabbed the back of his head and looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. God knows. Qin Feiyong shrugged. The inner demons looked at the divine weapons for a moment and said, "Let's split up and look around to see if there is anything else." Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded. The two immediately separated and shuttled through the clouds. Soon, Qin Feiyong saw another shocking scene. In the void, there were tens of thousands of jade slips floating. Each jade slip was emitting a hazy divine light. They were all divine arts. At the same time, the inner demons also found countless alchemy furnaces in the void. These alchemy furnaces were also divine-level alchemy furnaces. The two continued to search. Soon, Qin Feiyong found clusters of divine-level alchemy fire in all kinds of colors. There were tens of thousands of them. The inner demons also found a lot of medicinal herbs. And they were all the most precious medicinal herbs, such as the fruit of creation, the spiritual infant fruit and so on. There were even many medicinal herbs that he had never seen before. Next, they also found a golden mountain that was tens of thousands of feet high, as well as countless divine pills and so on. What the hell is this place? There are so many treasures and divine objects. In the end, the two met at the place where they found the divine weapons. Both their faces and eyes were full of surprise. After a long time, the inner demons just recovered and looked at Qin Feiyong and said, "Are you sure this is heaven and hell?" "Hell, I don't think so." As for heaven, Qin Feiyong glanced at the divine weapons and said with a smile, "You don't say, this place really does look like heaven." The inner demons said, "In other words, these divine objects and treasures are all ours? We're already like this. Why do we still need these treasures and divine objects?" Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly. If it was before, he would definitely take out his Chenkuan bag and put it all away. But now, at most, he would be shocked, but he didn't care too much. "You're bullshitting. I've said it before. We live as heroes, and we die as heroes. The divine items and treasures here are our capital. Hurry up and put them away," the inner demons urged. After saying that, they flew to a divine weapon and reached out to grab it. Qin Feiyong frowned, stepped forward to stop the inner demons, and said, "Do you think these things are still useful to us now?" "Let go." The inner demons raised his eyebrows. "We've already come to this point, why can't you see past it? Besides, don't you feel that so many divine objects and treasures are a little unreal?" Qin Feiyong said, "They're right in front of us. Isn't it real enough?" The inner demons said angrily. "Yes." Qin Feiyong nodded and said, "I always feel that what we see is not real." "Nonsense. So many divine weapons, if it was anyone else, they would think that they were dreaming. But these are all real," the inner demons said. Qin Feiyong turned his head to look at the divine weapons in the void and suddenly waved his hand. At that moment, a scene that the inner demons couldn't accept appeared. The divine weapons in the void actually collapsed one after another, and finally all disappeared into nothingness. Sure enough, there's a problem. Qin Feiyong's heart skipped a beat. "Who's playing tricks in the dark? Get out!" After the inner demons came back to his senses, he roared, "Ha! A childish laughter suddenly sounded behind the two of them. The two of them tensed up and hurriedly turned around to look, only to see a little boy standing behind them. This little boy was only 3 or 4 years old, wearing a small red belly band and a golden bell hanging around his neck. His little face was chubby and pink. A pair of big dark eyes, blinking, was quite cute. However, there was a sense of depth between his eyebrows, looking like an antique that had lived for countless years.
Who are you?
Qin Feiyong looked at the child warily. The little boy looked at the two of them for a moment and grinned. I'm the owner of this place.
The owner of this place?
Qin Feiyong looked at each other, glanced around the void, looked at the little boy suspiciously, and asked, Then what is this place?
You don't have to worry about that.
I came out to tell you. Congratulations on passing the test.
The little boy said.
Test. Qin Feiyong and Qin Feiyong were stunned. The little boy glanced at the inner demons, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said, To be exact, you passed the test. Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked, What test?
The test of greed.
All creatures in the world have a fatal flaw, which is greed.
Greed is endless, and it's also human nature.
For example, you humans. In the beginning, you only pursued a little bit of wealth, enough to support your family. However, after you obtained this wealth, you wanted even more wealth. So, the treasures that appeared in front of you before were all tests.
The little boy said.
So that's how it is. Qin Feiyong suddenly understood.
Wait. Just now you said, you humans. Are you not human?
The inner demons were suspicious. The little boy frowned and said, I just made an analogy.
Why are you so worried about this?
The inner demons pursed his lips. Qin Feiyong looked at the little boy and asked, Then what would happen if we didn't pass the test just now?
What would happen?
The little boy chuckled and said, Both of you would disappear.
Do you know what disappear is?
It's death.
We're already dead. Why are you afraid of dying again?
The inner demons were disdainful. The little boy said, How do you know that you're already dead? The inner demons was stunned and frowned.
What do you mean?
Your physical bodies have indeed disappeared, but your consciousness is still fine, isn't it? As long as your consciousness is still there, you're not dead. The little boy said.
Not dead?
Qin Feiyong and Qin Feiyong looked at each other. Going back to what I said before, if you didn't pass the test, then your consciousness would have been ruthlessly erased. After the little boy said that, he looked at the inner demon and said, You should really be glad that your true body stopped you and didn't let you touch those divine artifacts. Otherwise, both of your consciousnesses would have been wiped out by now. The inner demons couldn't help but feel a lingering fear after hearing this. Qin Feiyong looked at the inner demons and said with a smile, Like I said, you can't just look at the surface of things.
You just happened by accident. What are you so proud of?
The inner demons snorted.
Chapter 1663.
The little boy said, Even if the physical body disappears, it can still be reconstructed.
Reconstruct?
Qin Feiyong and the inner demons were shocked.
See for yourself.
The little boy waved his hand, and an image immediately appeared in the void in front of him. The scene displayed in the image was the main hall. The crystal was still suspended in the void, emitting a dazzling light. Suddenly, strands of divine light fell from the crystal.
A blurry outline gradually appeared.
It was the outline of a person. Qin Feiyong looked at the little boy in surprise and said, That can't be me, right? The little boy did not answer. Qin Feiyong looked at the image again. As time passed, the outline became clearer. About 100 breaths later, finally, the outline solidified. A young man in white with flesh and blood appeared in the line of sight of Qin Feiyong and the inner demons. Both of them were dumbfounded, because that young man in white was their physical body. How could this be? The two of them looked at the little boy in surprise. The little boy said, It's the energy of the heart of origin that helped you reconstruct your physical body.
Heart of origin?
Qin Feiyong and the inner demons looked at each other.
What was this?
The little boy said, The crystal you see is the heart of origin of the Black Tortoise realm.
The heart of origin of the Black Tortoise realm?
Qin Feiyong and the inner demons were even more puzzled, because they could not understand at all. What was the heart of origin that the little boy was talking about? The mystery of the Heart of Origin is not something that people of your level can understand. All you need to know now is that controlling the Heart of Origin is equivalent to controlling the Black Tortoise realm.
The little boy said. Qin Feiyong's gaze trembled. Who exactly are you?
Were you the one who asked the Heart of Origin to help us reconstruct our physical bodies? The inner demons looked at the little boy and said,
Me.
I've always been in front of you.
Did you see me ask it to help you reconstruct your physical bodies? The little boy said. The inner demons frowned.
The little boy did not say anything.
You will know who I am in the future. As for now, you all have already passed the trial. I believe that the Heart of Origin should no longer reject you all.
After the little boy finished speaking, he waved his little hand, and Qin Feiyong and the inner demons immediately appeared in the hall.
That's it?
The inner demons were astonished.
What else do you want? Qin Feiyong asked.
The inner demons said,
he should have made it clear. The Heart of Origins will no longer reject us. What does that mean? Isn't that simple?
Since the Heart of Origin will no longer reject us, we can obtain it.
Qin Feiyong said.
Yeah. The inner demons shuddered and immediately raised their heads to look at the Heart of Origins. Their eyes flickered as they urged, quickly go and try it. Qin Feiyong nodded and his consciousness entered his body to stretch his muscles and bones. His physical body was still the same as before. The purple gold dragon blood was still there.
Even his Qianquan bag was reconstructed. Wait a minute. But suddenly,
Qin Feiyong's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with disbelief.
What?
The inner demons thought that something bad had happened and asked hurriedly.
This is impossible.
How could this be? Qin Feiyong muttered to himself, turning a deaf ear to the inner demons' words.
What's going on? The inner demons shouted.
Qin Feiyong raised his head to look at the inner demons and said in disbelief, this physical body, speaking of which. He swallowed his saliva, his face full of shock and ecstasy.
Hurry up and tell me, what's wrong with this physical body?
The inner demon said anxiously. This physical body, Qin Feiyong murmured and suddenly roared. There's actually the power of a pseudo-god in the energy reserve of this physical body.
What? The power of a pseudo-god? The inner demons trembled.
Wasn't having the power of a pseudo-god equal to having cultivation? The inner demons urged, hurry up. But before the inner demons finished speaking, a terrifying divine power immediately rushed out from Qin Feiyong's body.
It's really divine power. But what's going on?
Our cultivation has clearly been completely crippled.
The inner demons said in disbelief.
Qin Feiyong said, yes, this is what I can't figure out.
Suddenly,
the two of them seemed to have thought of something. They looked at each other at the same time, and then raised their heads at the same time to look at the Heart of Origin floating above. Their physical bodies were reconstructed by this Heart of Origin. In that case, their cultivation must also be related to this Heart of Origin.
Is it you? Qin Feiyong asked.
But the Heart of Origin did not move, nor did it respond.
It must be it, the inner demons said.
Because other than this, there was no other explanation. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath, bowed to the Heart of Origin and said, thank you. At this time, the inner demons also lowered their arrogant heads and sincerely thanked him.
Cultivation was too important to them.
Although Qin Feiyong showed an indifferent attitude when he was saving everyone, in fact, his heart had been aching faintly. After all, he had experienced too much along the way. Once his cultivation was lost, all his efforts over the years would be wasted and he would have to start all over again. Although with his talent, it would not take many years for him to cultivate to the pseudo-god realm again, it would still take time. Therefore, the recovery of their cultivation was simply a great fortune for Qin Feiyong and the inner demons. It was more precious than any treasure or divine item. The two of them finally calmed down. The inner demons looked at Qin Feiyong and said, let me feel the feeling of regaining my cultivation.
Okay.
Qin Feiyong nodded and his consciousness left his body. The inner demon's consciousness followed into his body. He immediately looked inside his sea of qi. In his sea of qi, the 3 war souls were still there. But the difference was that there used to be 3 kinds of battle qi in his sea of qi, but now there were 3 kinds of pseudo-god powers. The battle qi was in a state of mist. The pseudo-god powers were in a liquefied state, like flowing water. The 3 pseudo-god powers divided the Sea of Qi into 3 parts, each occupying one side. But in contrast, the purple gold dragon aura occupied the largest part, occupying half of the entire Sea of Qi. The remaining half was divided equally between the red sword aura and the flaming battle Qi. Feeling. The purple gold dragon aura was the big brother. The red sword aura and the flaming battle Qi were the little brothers. Feeling the terrifying aura of the 3 pseudo-god powers and the majestic power in his body, the inner demons couldn't help but clench his hands together. Boom! A terrifying divine power broke out of his body again. Then, the inner demons punched the ground. Boom! The ground did not break. On the contrary, his arm was numb from the shock. But even so, the inner demons couldn't help but roar, his face full of excitement. So this is the feeling of regaining something you lost. 1 word, cool. 2 words, it feels fucking good. He laughed loudly. That's only 2 words. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Hey! The inner demons grinned. But then, he raised his eyebrows, looked at Qin Feiyong, and said, "Let me tell you, you are not allowed to use the 4th move of the Divine Dragon technique in the future, otherwise I will not let you off. After all, this body is not only yours, but also mine." Chapter 1664. Unless it's a last resort, who would be willing to use such a divine art? Qin Feiyong was speechless. Not even if it's a last resort. The inner demon said angrily. Okay, I'll listen to you. Qin Feiyong was helpless. The inner demon's expression finally eased. Next, the inner demons left the body, and Qin Feiyong entered the body. Then, the 2 of them raised their heads at the same time and looked at the Heart of Origin. The inner demon said, "My lord, why don't you try again? Why don't you go?" Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. The inner demon said, "Didn't that kid hear that the one who passed the test was actually you? I'm just basking in your glory." Qin Feiyong was speechless. We are the same person to begin with. Why do we have to be so clear about it? At this time, we have to be clear about it. If this Heart of Origin doesn't acknowledge me, then wouldn't we be in trouble again? The inner demons said. That seems to be the case. Qin Feiyong nodded. Hurry. When you get the Heart of Origin, the entire Black Tortoise realm will be ours. The Fire Dragon and the Giant Python want to trap us to death. Dream on. The inner demons urged. Qin Feiyong exhaled, jumped, and landed in front of the Heart of Origin. Then, he slowly reached out his hand and poked the Heart of Origin with his fingertip. After waiting for a while, he didn't see any reaction from the Heart of Origin, so he mustered up his courage and grabbed the Heart of Origin. He was quite nervous. However, after a while, there was still no movement from the Heart of Origin. At this time, he heaved a sigh of relief, grabbed the Heart of Origin, and landed next to the inner demons. The inner demons hurriedly said, "Quickly try and see if you can leave the Black Tortoise realm." Qin Feiyong was stunned. What's wrong? The inner demons were confused. Qin Feiyong said, "Although I don't know what the Heart of Origin is, I can imagine that if you want to control the Heart of Origin, you must first recognize a master." How? Could it be that it recognizes its master by dripping blood like a divine weapon? The inner demons said. How would I know? Qin Feiyong was helpless. However, he could still give it a try. A strand of false divinity energy surged out and slit his wrist. Purple gold dragon blood immediately appeared and dripped onto the Heart of Origin. Wang. Immediately, the Heart of Origin emitted a blazing light. All of the purple gold dragon blood that dripped onto it was absorbed by it. However, Qin Feiyong, did not feel the slightest hint of success. What happened? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows. Can't I? The inner demons asked. Qin Feiyong nodded. The inner demon said angrily, "Since it can't recognize a master by dripping blood, why does it still absorb the purple gold dragon blood? They don't even know how to recognize a master. What 2 pigs?" But suddenly, the familiar voice of the little boy sounded in the hall. The 2 of them hurriedly looked over and saw the little boy standing in the left corner of the hall, looking at them with a pair of mocking eyes. We don't even know what the Heart of Origin is. How would we know? How can we recognize a master? The inner demon said angrily. Don't make excuses for your stupidity. The little boy despised them. My bad temper. The inner demons flew into a rage out of humiliation. They rolled up their sleeves and were ready to fight. Calm down. Qin Feiyong hurriedly stopped them and transmitted his voice. Can't you see? This child is not simple. You're simply courting death by shouting at him. The inner demon's eyes trembled, and they immediately suppressed their anger. Qin Feiyong looked at the little boy and smiled apologetically. My inner demons have a bad temper. Please forgive me. Inner demons are all like this. It's understandable. The little boy glanced at the inner demons and looked at Qin Feiyong as if he was an old man. Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked in surprise, You know the inner demons very well? I don't know them well. Back to the topic. This heart of origin is not an ordinary object like a divine weapon, so the way to recognize a master is different. The little boy said. An ordinary object like a divine weapon? Qin Feiyong and the little boy were stunned. A divine weapon was just an ordinary object in the eyes of this child? Oh my God! Just what kind of background did this little brat have? Qin Feiyong calmed himself down and asked humbly, Then how does it recognize a master? There is only one way for the heart of origin to recognize a master, and that is to gain its approval. If it recognizes you, it will take the initiative to merge with your soul. The little boy said. Qin Feiyong said, What if it doesn't recognize me? A sly look flashed in the little boy's eyes, and he said, It will directly erase your soul. What? Qin Feiyong's eyes trembled. Wouldn't erasing one's soul mean death? This was simply a huge gamble. That's right. This is a huge gamble. If you win, you will get the Black Tortoise realm and step onto the peak of life. If you lose, you will lose your life and become dust. The little boy said. Hearing this, Qin Feiyong lowered his head, his eyes full of struggle. The inner demons hesitated for a while, looked at the little boy and frowned. He has already passed the test. There shouldn't be too much of a problem, right? Wrong. The test is my test for you. It has nothing to do with recognizing a master. The little boy said. The inner demons said, But you just said that the heart of origin won't reject us anymore? That's right. I'm not wrong, because it doesn't reject you now. Otherwise, how could it be in your hands? But rejection is one thing, and recognizing a master is another. Don't mix them up. The little boy said. Qin Feiyong and the inner demons looked at each other. They didn't expect that a mere recognition of a master would have such a big risk. The little boy said, Answer me, are you going to recognize a master or give up? The inner demons glanced at the little boy, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said, You decide. Qin Feiyong looked at the inner demons, gritted his teeth, looked at the little boy and said, I'm willing to take this gamble. You're really brave. There was a trace of admiration in the little boy's eyes. With a light wave of his little hand, the heart of origin immediately turned into a stream of light, entering the top of his head and into his sea of consciousness. The inner demons immediately became nervous. Qin Feiyong was the same. This was because he could clearly feel that the heart of origin was slowly moving around his soul. It was as if it was examining its soul. Suddenly, there was a sharp pain in his mind. He felt as if his soul was being torn apart by the heart of origin. Even Qin Feiyong couldn't bear this kind of pain. He couldn't help but scream, and his face instantly distorted. You didn't get recognition? The inner demons was stunned. They quickly looked at the little boy and said, Let's give up. Let the heart of origin out. Since you've made a choice, you have to face it bravely. Do you want to be a coward? The little boy said indifferently. Don't talk to me about principles. I don't understand. Let the heart of origin out immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The inner demon said angrily. There's no turning back. The little boy said expressionlessly. But in the depths of his eyes, a hint of disdain for the inner demons flashed. Bastard, I'll kill you. The hostility that the inner demons had been suppressing all this time suddenly erupted. He took a step forward, carrying a monstrous murderous aura, and slapped at the little boy. You're really going to attack me? The little boy was stunned. His eyes suddenly turned cold as he stared at the inner demons and said, This is the worst decision you've ever made in your life. As soon as he finished speaking, the little boy took a step forward and appeared behind the inner demons in an instant.
What a fast speed. The inner demons turned pale with fright. With his current strength, he actually couldn't capture the trajectory of the little boy behind him. It felt as if he had teleported. Without waiting for him to turn around, the little boy raised his small arm and pointed his index finger in the air. Boom! A terrifying aura burst out from the ground. The inner demons was instantly enveloped by the aura of death. He couldn't help but tremble. He couldn't help but feel despair. He felt that the child behind him was like a god of death. It made his hair stand on end. Chapter 1665. Little brother, stop it. At this moment, Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and hurriedly looked at the little boy. The little boy was slightly stunned. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked in confusion, "I'm clearing the inner demons for you now. Shouldn't you be grateful to me? Why are you stopping me instead?" In the eyes of the world, the inner demons are ominous things, the embodiment of evil. To be honest, I used to want to get rid of him. But after getting along with him, I realized that he is actually no different from us. And now, he has become a part of my life. Qin Feiyang glanced at the inner demons and smiled at the little boy. This body. Hearing these words, the inner demons stared at Qin Feiyang in a daze. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart. A part of my life. The little boy muttered to himself and slowly lowered his arm. Looking at the inner demons, he said lightly, "You are very lucky to have met such a body. Cherish it." This time, the inner demons did not refute. Wait a minute. Suddenly, he was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Wasn't Qin Feiyang in great pain before? Why did he seem to be fine now? Could it be that he had succeeded in recognizing him as the master? That's right. Yes, I have succeeded in recognizing him as the master. Qin Feiyang looked at the inner demons and said with a smile. The inner demons were overjoyed and asked, "Then why did you scream just now?" "I said you were stupid, but you didn't admit it. Although the heart of origin is merged with the soul, it is not merged with the entire soul." The little boy said disdainfully. "Yes, I screamed just now because the heart of origin split my soul. As for the strand of soul that was split off, it fused with the heart of origin. This is how the heart of origin recognizes its master." Qin Feiyang said. "I see." The inner demons were enlightened. To be honest, he was really frightened previously. He thought that the heart of origins was going to erase Qin Feiyang's soul. Otherwise, he wouldn't have attacked the little boy. Of course. If he hadn't attacked the little boy, he wouldn't have known that the little boy was hiding such a terrifying technique. Originally, he and Qin Feiyang both thought that this little boy didn't have much strength and only had a terrifying background. But the result was the exact opposite. They could not figure it out either. How could a child who was only 3 or 4 years old possess such terrifying strength? Qin Feiyang looked at the little boy and asked, "May I ask, where do you live and who are your parents?" "Don't ask what you shouldn't." A cold light flashed in the little boy's eyes. He said expressionlessly, "I have successfully recognized you as my master. I should also take my leave. See you again." After saying that, the little boy instantly disappeared without a trace. Leaving just like that? The inner demons were stunned. "Don't tell me you want to treat him to dinner?" Qin Feiyang was speechless. The inner demon smiled embarrassedly and asked suspiciously, "Do you think this little brat is the child of the creator of miracles? Otherwise, how could he have such terrifying methods?" Qin Feiyang thought for a while and nodded. "It's possible. Because this black tortoise realm was created by the creator. The little boy could enter and leave the black tortoise realm at will, so it must be related to the creator." But he didn't understand. If the little boy was really related to the creator, then he must also know Small Beast, Giant Python, and Fire Dragon. But why did Small Beast, Giant Python, and Fire Dragon want to harm him, but the little boy wanted to help him? Could it be the little boy and Small Beast were not on the same side? The more he thought about it, the more confused Qin Feiyang's mind became. He rubbed his forehead and temporarily put this matter aside. The inner demons looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Is the heart of origin in your sea of consciousness now?" Qin Feiyang nodded. The inner demons urged, "Then quickly take a look and see if you can touch the devil imprint." His expression was rather nervous. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded.
With a thought, the heart of origin immediately rushed out from between his eyebrows, emitting a hazy divine light.
However, he didn't know how to control it. He tentatively grabbed the heart of origin and placed it on the devil imprint on his chest. Bas! Suddenly, a ray of divine light emerged and entered the devil imprint. The next moment, under the excited gazes of Qin Feiyong and the inner demons, the devil imprint actually dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye.
Really?
The inner demons was stunned and overjoyed.
You really didn't deceive me.
Qin Feiyong was also overjoyed.
The mysterious person in the soul-sealing valley was still somewhat honest.
Since the devil imprint can be removed, then it can definitely leave the Black Tortoise realm. The inner demons said excitedly.
Indeed.
Just now, when the master recognition was successful, my perception was infinitely magnified.
The entire Black Tortoise realm could clearly see it,
including Zhuge Mingyang outside, as well as those mortals, beasts, wild beasts and so on.
Even my perception penetrated the Black Tortoise realm and saw the miraculous scene outside.
Qin Feiyong said. So powerful?
The inner demons were surprised.
Qin Feiyong nodded.
The inner demons hurriedly said, "Let me take a look."
Qin Feiyong put away the heart of origin and his consciousness left his body.
The inner demons immediately got into his body and then closed his eyes.
Sure enough, as Qin Feiyong said, the moment he closed his eyes, his perception began to expand infinitely at an astonishing speed. Zhuge Mingyang and the desert outside the door, as well as the storm in the desert, immediately appeared in front of his eyes. His perception was still expanding. Soon, his perception passed through the entire desert and entered the mountains and rivers outside. He was like a ghost, wandering between heaven and earth. The 4 forbidden areas, mountains and rivers, humans and beasts, all entered his sight one by one.
Moreover, whatever the people of the world were doing and saying, he could clearly see and hear.
This feeling was very strange.
He felt that at this moment, he was the ruler of this world and could dictate the fate of any living being.
There was even a kind of confidence that with just a thought, he could erase a pseudo-god beast. Finally, his perception passed through the Black Tortoise realm and entered the miraculous scene outside.
In front of him was an endless sea of fire.
Waves of fire rolled, and a terrifying high temperature enveloped all directions. This land was like a big furnace. The inner demons looked at this scene in surprise. Wasn't this the place where they entered the Black Tortoise realm? Can I come out with just a thought? The inner demons muttered. Immediately after, his thought moved. Swish! The next moment, he and Qin Feiyong both appeared above the sea of fire.
Can I really come out?
The inner demons were stunned. Qin Feiyong also had a look of surprise. Boom! Crack! But the next moment, in the sky, the wind suddenly surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. A terrifying rule force descended.
Rule force!
Damn it! It's the giant python causing trouble again.
The inner demons was furious.
No. This rule force is a bit different from the rule force controlled by the giant python. This rule force is stronger. Qin Feiyong said. You mean, it's that small beast?
The inner demons were bewildered.
It shouldn't be. With the strength of the small beast to deal with us, it doesn't need to use rule force at all. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Then what's going on?
The inner demons looked at the descending rule force, and their eyes were filled with confusion.
I know.
Qin Feiyong suddenly said.
What?
The inner demons quickly asked.
It should be because of our cultivation base. Now that we've broken through to the false god realm, once we leave the Black Tortoise world, the rule force will send us to the second layer. Qin Feiyong said. Yes. I actually missed this point. But, when the willow tree left the Black Tortoise world, why wasn't it sent to the second layer?
The inner demons was stunned and puzzled.
It must be because of the devil mark.
Quickly go to the Black Tortoise world.
Qin Feiyong urged. Yan Wei, Wang Zicheng, and the others had not been found yet, so they definitely couldn't go to the second layer. The inner demons waved their hands, and the two immediately appeared in the main hall. In the main hall, everything was calm as usual. The inner demons scanned the main hall and asked, Do you think this main hall is also a terrifying divine tool? This, Qin Feiyong pondered and didn't say anything. To be honest, it was really hard to judge.
According to the sturdiness of the main hall, it should be a divine tool. However, there was another possibility. This main hall might have been tempered by divine power, or it might be because of the heart of origin that it was so sturdy. In other words, this main hall was very likely to be a very ordinary building. Qin Feiyong said, "Look at what Zhuge Mingyang is doing." The inner demons closed their eyes. The scene outside immediately appeared in front of them. A moment later, the inner demons opened their eyes and sneered. Not only did he activate his battle soul, but he also activated his innate ability. He should be planning to catch us off guard when we go out. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with killing intent, and said, "This person must be eliminated. Leave this matter to me. You go to the inner world and stay there first. Let me have some fun outside." The inner demons laughed. Qin Feiyong smiled helplessly and instantly disappeared into the space between his eyebrows. "Zhuge Mingyang, today is the day you die." The inner demon's eyes flashed with a cold light. He withdrew his aura and stepped across the main hall, appearing a few miles behind Zhuge Mingyang. Now, he could go anywhere in the Black Tortoise realm with just a thought. Boom! The moment he left the main hall and the stone tablet in front of the main hall collapsed. Dust billowed and turned into ruins. The sudden change shocked Zhuge Mingyang, who was standing in front of the main hall, and he quickly retreated with his battle soul. At the same time, in the ancient castle, Willow Tree and the others were also surprised. Fatso and the others heard the movement and hurriedly got up and looked at the screen in surprise. "What's going on?" Lu Hong asked. "We don't know either." The main hall and the stone tablet suddenly collapsed. Willow Tree said. "Then where's little Qin Zi?" White-Eyed Wolf said. "I don't see, young master." Willow Tree shook his head. Everyone stared at the ruins. The main hall collapsed, and Qin Feiyong must be under the ruins. Hey, Zhuge, what are you looking at?" "I'm here." Suddenly, a laugh sounded behind them. "Qin Feiyong." Zhuge Mingyang trembled. He turned around abruptly and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw Qin Feiyong standing on a sand dune with his arms crossed in front of his chest. He was looking at him with a mocking expression. Zhuge Mingyang's face was full of disbelief. When did he come out of the main hall? Chapter 1666. Willow Tree and the others in the castle looked at Qin Feiyong in surprise. But more than that, they were happy. These days, because they were worried about Qin Feiyong's safety, they had been in a state of anxiety. If it weren't for their strong minds, they would have collapsed. Therefore, at this moment, seeing Qin Feiyong come out alive, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. However, what followed was also a lot of doubts. How did Qin Feiyong come out? One had to know. Not only Zhuge Mingyang, but also they had been staring at the door of the hall. From the beginning to the end, the door had not been opened. White-Eyed Wolf looked at Qin Feiyong in the picture, raised his eyebrows and said, "No, he is not little Qin Zi, but the inner demons." Listening to the laughter, Fat Lord already knew that it was the inner demons. However, since the inner demons appeared, the boss must be fine. Fatso said with a smile. Everyone nodded. Outside, Zhuge Mingyang looked at the inner demons and frowned. "When did you come out?" "Just now," the inner demons said. "Just now?" Zhuge Mingyang frowned more and more. Did this guy come out by opening the portal? But it seemed that the portal couldn't be opened in the desert. And Qin Feiyong was now a disabled person, so he couldn't open the portal. At this moment, the inner demons didn't have the slightest aura of cultivation from head to toe, just like an ordinary person. Of course, he was deliberately teasing Zhuge Mingyang. "Surprised, aren't you? You were waiting outside just to catch me off guard, but in the end, you didn't show off. Are you very angry now?" The inner demon sneered. "Yes, I'm very angry now. But answer me, can you withstand my wrath in your current state?" Zhuge Mingyang sneered and charged towards the inner demons with a terrifying demonic aura. "Save the young master!" Ning Mingi shouted. Willow Tree waved his hand. Ning Mingi, Cui Li, Li Yun, and Willow Tree himself immediately appeared above the inner demons. Following closely, the four of them unleashed their auras, and their quasi-divinity energy gushed out, rushing towards Zhuge Mingyang. "It's best that all of you come out,
lest I have to deal with you one by one. Zhuge Mingyang let out a maniacal laugh. The grayish-white power of the false god emerged and roared in the sky. Rumble! Willow Tree and the other three's false god powers were instantly shattered. The four of them turned pale. They quickly looked at the inner demons and said, "Young master, let's go to the castle." The inner demons, however, turned a deaf ear to him. They laughed and waved their hands. Rumble! In the sky, a terrifying power of the rules came crashing down. This is... Willow Tree and the other three were shocked. How could the young master control the rule force? Zhuge Mingyang looked at the rule force with a look of horror. What was going on? What did he get in the main hall? Rumble! The rule force fell, and its aura firmly locked onto Zhuge Mingyang. No matter where Zhuge Mingyang escaped, the rule force would follow. That terrifying aura caused his body to crack continuously, and blood flowed out like a fountain. In the nick of time, Zhuge Mingyang entered the Space Divine item. With a loud bang, the rule force blasted on the Space Divine item, but it didn't shatter it. "Young master, you?" Willow Tree and the other three flew to the side of the inner demons, their faces full of shock. "Step aside." But before the four of them finished speaking, the inner demons shouted coldly. They glanced at the place where Zhuge Mingyang disappeared, and their eyes were extremely hazy. "Yes." The four of them hurriedly retreated behind the inner demons. The inner demons sneered. "Come out, what's the point of hiding?" Swish! Zhuge Mingyang appeared in the opposite void and said in a deep voice, "What did you get? You can control the rule force of a miracle." "Wrong. I'm not controlling the rule force of a miracle, but the rule force of the Black Tortoise world." The inner demons said. "The rule force of the Black Tortoise world. Could it be that you've already controlled the Black Tortoise world?" Zhuge Mingyang's face was full of disbelief. "Yes." The inner demons nodded. "How is this possible?" Zhuge Mingyang roared. The inner demons waved his hand, and another rule force fell. He sneered. "Isn't this the best proof?" "It can't be." Zhuge Mingyang looked at the rule force and shook his head frantically. But Willow Tree and the others were incomparably excited. The Black Tortoise world had fallen into the young master's hands? Did that mean that the young master could now help them remove the devil mark? Not to mention the devil mark, just the Black Tortoise world being controlled by the young master was already something worth celebrating. "I don't believe it!" Zhuge Mingyang suddenly roared, and the Bone Dragon Battle Soul roared in the sky. With its innate ability, it bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced toward Qin Feiyong. "Young master, be careful!" Willow Tree hurriedly shouted. The inner demons smiled disdainfully, and the rule force blasted toward the bone dragon. Boom! The bone dragon wailed and shattered on the spot. Puff! Zhuge Mingyang spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. "Come, kill me!" But Zhuge Mingyang was even crazier. He ignored his injuries and directly pounced toward the inner demons. "I don't believe that you're really immortal." The inner demon's bloody eyes were as cold as a blade. Roar! Accompanied by a loud dragon roar, a purple-gold divine dragon rushed out from behind him. "This is Purple Gold Dragon's soul." Willow Tree and the other three were dumbfounded. Zhuge Mingyang was also stunned. Didn't Qin Feiyong lose his cultivation? How could he still activate his battle soul? "Emperor Prison!" The inner demons roared. A monstrous dragon aura and emperor aura erupted between heaven and earth. A divine prison immediately appeared. "It's an innate ability. He didn't lose his cultivation," Zhuge Mingyang muttered and roared. "You bastard, you actually lied to me, despicable, shameless." "Lied to you? There's really no need for that." The inner demons smiled contemptuously. The divine prison fell, and Zhuge Mingyang was immediately imprisoned in the void, unable to move. Immediately! The inner demons shouted to Willow Tree and the other three, "Go and kill him immediately!" "Yes!" The four responded respectfully, and immediately rushed toward Zhuge Mingyang with monstrous killing intent. "Kill me? With just you guys?" Zhuge Mingyang smiled proudly, and a terrifying demonic aura burst out of his body. The Emperor Divine Prison had been torn apart. "Qin Feiyong, there's still a long way to go. Let's wait and see." Zhuge Mingyang smiled coldly, and did not continue to fight. He immediately entered the divine space item and drove it away.
The inner demons released their divine sense and rushed toward the divine space item. It's divine sense. We're not dreaming. The young master's cultivation has really recovered. Willow Tree and the other three were overjoyed. Very quickly, the inner demon's divine sense locked onto the divine space item, and then took a step forward, and instantly appeared in front of the divine space item. This speed is even faster than teleportation. Ning Mingi was shocked. You don't understand. The young master controls the black tortoise world. He can go anywhere with just a thought. Willow Tree laughed. Ning Mingi couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard this. Not only did he recover his cultivation, but he also obtained the black tortoise world. Such luck and opportunity was really enviable. In my world, where can you ask for it? The inner demons looked at the divine space item with ridicule in his eyes. Boom! Rays of rule power continued to fall, forming a cage that was dozens of feet wide, trapping the divine space item. Bang bang bang! Zhuge Mingyang drove the divine space item and crazily hit the cage. However, although his divine space item could withstand the bombardment of rule power, it couldn't break the rule power. However, although Zhuge Mingyang was trapped, the inner demon's face was a little ugly. Because according to the current situation, he didn't have the ability to break the divine space item. If he couldn't break the divine space item, then there was no way to kill Zhuge Mingyang. Willow Tree and the other three flew over and looked at the inner demons. Young master, why don't you try using the castle? Castle. The inner demon's eyes flickered and nodded. Okay, call out all the false gods for me immediately. Okay. Willow Tree responded and immediately entered the castle. Not long after, Yu Huang, Li Yun's woman, Zhao Tai Lai, and the Grand Deacon in Ling Yunfei's divine space item all appeared with the Willow Tree. Greetings, young master. More than 100 false gods bowed in unison. The inner demons shouted, Revival Castle, break his divine space item for me. Yes. Everyone responded respectfully. Swish. Before his voice died away, Zhuge Mingyang appeared in the cage. There was a hint of anxiety on his face as he asked, Brother Qin, are you really going to kill them all? What? Are you finally afraid? It seems like it's just as we expected. Your undying demon technique is only effective on me. In other words, no matter how many times I kill you, you will revive. But if someone else kills you, you will completely disappear. The inner demons sneered. Hearing this, Zhuge Mingyang's face darkened slightly. I didn't expect you to see through it so quickly. So, the inner demons said. So I must die in your hands, because only then can I become stronger. By the way, I'll tell you one more time. If I die again, I can step into the war god realm. Zhuge Mingyang sneered again and again. You won't have a chance. The inner demon's eyes turned cold, and a ray of rule force suddenly fell, penetrating the cage, and blasted towards Zhuge Mingyang. Zhuge Mingyang disappeared in an instant. Clang! Boom! The rule force immediately blasted the divine space item that was exposed outside. A wave of destructive energy gushed out like a volcanic eruption. The cage was smashed into pieces. The moment the cage was smashed, Zhuge Mingyang appeared like lightning and rushed towards the inner demons at an astonishing speed. Stop him! Don't let him come near me! The inner demons shouted. Ning Mingi and the others immediately went forward. Willow Tree even used the castle as a brick and smashed it towards Zhuge Mingyang. Do you think you can stop me? Zhuge Mingyang laughed. Divine light burst out from under his feet, and his speed suddenly increased by several times. He easily passed by Willow Tree and the others, and rushed to the inner demons, and punched towards the inner demon's head. Even the inner demons didn't have time to react to this sudden increase in speed. He instinctively raised his arm and met Zhuge Mingyang's fist with his palm, and the false god's power roared out. Zhuge Mingyang smiled as if his plan had worked. He loosened his fist and took the initiative to meet his death. Oh no! The inner demons came back to his senses and quickly retracted his arm. Seeing this, Chapter 1667. Crack. Immediately, Zhuge Mingyang's heart shattered, his entire chest caved in, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Looking at Zhuge Mingyang who was slowly falling down, the inner demons were stunned. Willow Tree and the others were also dumbstruck. All of a sudden, The inner demons came back to their senses and shouted, "Quickly check if he's dead, we can't let him die in my hands." Willow Tree immediately swooped down, caught Zhuge Mingyang, and then lay flat in the void to check on Zhuge Mingyang's injuries. A great enemy is in front of us, but we can't kill him? This is so fucking frustrating. The inner demons roared angrily, then rushed to Willow Tree's side and asked, "How's the situation?" "He's not dead yet. He's just seriously injured and fainted." Willow Tree looked up at the inner demons and said in surprise, "Not dead?" The inner demons was stunned. "I think he has underestimated the strength of his current physical body. Last time, he ate the divine meat of the giant python with us, and the strength of his body has been greatly improved. And just now, in a moment of desperation, you also held back some of your strength, so you didn't kill him in one blow." Willow Tree analyzed. "Haha. The heavens are really helping me." The inner demons couldn't help but laugh. Zhuge Mingyang didn't die in his hands. Then everything was fine. On the contrary, Zhuge Mingyang overreached and fell into a coma, which was equivalent to being a fish on the chopping board, at their mercy. The inner demon's eyes flashed with killing intent, lowered his head to look at Zhuge Mingyang, and said, "You didn't expect that, right? You didn't die even though you wanted to, but instead put yourself in a real desperate situation." Now that Zhuge Mingyang was unconscious, Willow Tree and the others next to him could easily kill him. If he died in the hands of Willow Tree and the others, then Zhuge Mingyang would not be able to be reborn. The so-called undying demon art was nothing more than an empty shell. The inner demon said, "Kill him." Willow Tree nodded. The power of the false god emerged in his palm as he slapped toward Zhuge Mingyang's head with all his might. However, at this moment, Zhuge Mingyang, who had fainted, suddenly opened his eyes. Two beams of grayish-white light shot out from his eyes. Following closely, he raised his arm and punched out, colliding with Willow Tree's palm. Bang! Willow Tree was knocked back on the spot, blood gushing out of his mouth. On the other hand, Zhuge Mingyang looked as if nothing had happened. He stood still in the air. The inner demons raised an eyebrow and looked at Zhuge Mingyang. "Are you pretending?" Hee. Zhuge Mingyang smiled but said nothing. But that laughter made the inner demons and the others' scalps tingle. Because Zhuge Mingyang's voice had changed. It became hoarse and old, as if he was a different person. And if one looked carefully, his eyes had also changed, filled with a sense of vicissitudes and coldness. "What's going on?" Willow Tree and the others looked at each other. Zhuge Mingyang glanced at the Willow Tree group and looked at the inner demons. "Let your original body come out." The inner demons said in shock and anger, "You are not Zhuge Mingyang. Who are you?" Zhuge Mingyang said, "When your original body comes out, this old man will naturally tell you." The inner demons raised an eyebrow, and his consciousness entered the inner world. Qin Feiyong's consciousness also entered the body. He looked at Zhuge Mingyang and said, "Say it." Zhuge Mingyang said, "Do you know where the mermaid princess and Lin Yi are?" "What?" Qin Feiyong's eyes trembled, and he said in surprise, "What do you want to say?" Zhuge Mingyang said, "They are this old man's last disciples. They are now cultivating in seclusion somewhere, and they are probably about to become gods now." Last disciple. Qin Feiyong's body shook, and he said angrily, "Who the hell are you?" Zhuge Mingyang said, "It doesn't matter who this old man is. What matters is the mermaid princess and the others. What do you want to do?" "Last disciple? Is it really that simple?" Qin Feiyong shouted. "Yes, it's that simple. In order to train them, this old man has spent a lot of effort. Tell me, shouldn't you be grateful to this old man?" Zhuge Mingyang laughed hoarsely, his eyes full of ridicule. Qin Feiyong said gloomily, "So it was you who took them away?" No. They left with this old man willingly. Of course, this old man also admits that I did use some dirty tricks." Zhuge Mingyang said proudly. "Where are they now?" Qin Feiyong said. "They are fine now, don't worry about them. Also, this old man guesses that there is someone you will be interested in." Zhuge Mingyang said again. "Who?" Qin Feiyong frowned. Zhuge Mingyang said, "Your grandfather." "Grandfather?" Qin Feiyong's eyes suddenly trembled, and he stepped forward to grab Zhuge Mingyang's clothes and shouted, "What about my grandfather?"
Don't you think it's strange? Why have you never seen your grandfather when you went to the Liu family several times? And why are the people of the Liu family unwilling to give you a direct answer whenever you ask? Zhuge Mingyang said with a smile. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, I have seen through this long ago, you don't need to remind me. Just tell me, what happened to my grandfather? Zhuge Mingyang said playfully, how can this old man answer you when you grab me like this? Qin Feiyang looked gloomily at Zhuge Mingyang, and then let go of his hand. Zhuge Mingyang tidied up his wrinkled clothes and said with a smile, you won't find the answer you want in Miracle. I don't want to listen to nonsense. Just tell me. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands and said angrily, young man, how can you be like this? Don't you know that you should be nicer to the elderly? How can this old man tell you when you are like this? Zhuge Mingyang said unhappily. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, loosened his fingers, and said with a smile, is this okay? Can you tell me now? Smiling is considered a good attitude? This old man can do that too. Zhuge Mingyang grinned and smiled very brightly. Qin Feiyang's anger suddenly became uncontrollable. This person was obviously deliberately playing with him. Forget it, I won't tease you anymore. If you want to know the answer, go to the reincarnation ocean after you leave Miracle. Zhuge Mingyang said. Reincarnation ocean? Qin Feiyang was stunned, lowered his head, and frowned. He remembered that his mother also disappeared in the reincarnation ocean. Could it be related to this? Reincarnation ocean. What secrets were hidden in it? Whoosh. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked up at Zhuge Mingyang and said, are you done? If you are, it's time to send you to hell. This is what this old man is going to say next. Don't kill Zhuge Mingyang. Because if Zhuge Mingyang dies, even if you search the entire reincarnation ocean, you won't find anything. Zhuge Mingyang said. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened and asked, what do you want me to do? Ensure Zhuge Mingyang's safety and follow him to the second level of the godly site to do something. As for what it is, when you reach the second floor, Zhuge Mingyang will naturally tell you. Remember, if he loses a single hair, this old man will settle the score with you. After Zhuge Mingyang finished speaking, he closed his eyes and fainted again, falling down. Willow Tree looked at Zhuge Mingyang, looked at Qin Feiyang and asked suspiciously, young master, what's going on with him? Is it a possession? It's not a possession. Because if it's a possession, Zhuge Mingyang's consciousness will be devoured. But now, Zhuge Mingyang's consciousness is still there. I think it should be some old monster hiding in his body. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Old monster? Everyone looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Ning Mingi said, then what do we do now? What else can we do? Save him. Qin Feiyang said angrily. Okay. Ning Mingi quickly flew down and caught Zhuge Mingyang, took out a healing pill and a heart protection pill, and fed them to Zhuge Mingyang. The healing pill and heart protection pill were naturally given to everyone by Ling Yunfei. You still want to save him? How annoying! Looking at Zhuge Mingyang, who was gradually getting better, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel angry. Willow Tree said carefully, young master, I have a question, but I don't know if it's appropriate to ask. Speak. Qin Feiyang said. What's the situation with Lin Yi, the mermaid princess, and your grandfather? Why are you so passive? Willow Tree was suspicious. Li Yun and others were also puzzled. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead and said, it's a long story. You can ask Fatso and the others. They all know. Willow Tree and others nodded. After a while, Zhuge Mingyang finally woke up. He stood in the void, glanced at Willow Tree and others, and then looked at Qin Feiyang frowning. Why am I not dead? You're lucky. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly and said, who is the old man lurking in your body? Old man? Zhuge Mingyang was taken aback, and then showed a look of realization. He smiled and said, I see. It seems that Master has come forward. Master? Qin Feiyang was surprised. He didn't expect that Zhuge Mingyang and the mysterious old man were actually master and disciple. Zhuge Mingyang asked, did Master tell you anything else? Qin Feiyang nodded. Zhuge Mingyang grinned and said, then let me interview you. How do you feel now? What are you proud of? If it weren't for your master, You would be a corpse now. With your brain, I really don't understand why the old man would take a fancy to you. He even accepted you as his disciple. Qin Feiyong said disdainfully. Whatever you say, I don't care. I only know that the women you care about the most are now my junior sisters. Master also said that when everything is dealt with, he will betroth them to me. You can rest assured that I will take care of them for you. Zhuge Mingyang teased. You're courting death. Qin Feiyong's eyes suddenly surged with murderous intent. Kill me if you have the ability. Zhuge Mingyang raised his neck with a fearless look on his face. You're powerful, aren't you? Okay. Then you can slowly return to the undead mountain range alone. Qin Feiyong sneered and disappeared without a trace with the willow tree group. What do you mean? Zhuge Mingyang was stunned. Returning to the undead mountain range alone? The next moment, a monstrous anger rose from his body as he roared. Qin Feiyong, you bastard, you actually left me here. Believe it or not, I will ask Master to kill Lin Yi and the others. One should know. It took him almost a year to come here from the undead mountain range. Moreover, they were still rushing on without stopping to rest. In other words, it would take him a year to go back now. Or even longer. After all, there was no one to take care of him on the road. He had to walk alone in this desert for a year without anyone to talk to. Just thinking about it, he couldn't help but collapse and go crazy. However, no matter how he roared and threatened, Qin Feiyong did not appear again. He regretted it. Why was he so impulsive? Why didn't he wait until he left the desert and then yell at Qin Feiyong? Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Chapter 1668. At the same time, Qin Feiyong and his group landed in the sky above a square. Aeon City? Li Yun and the others stood in the square, scanning the surrounding buildings, their faces full of shock. This was too fast. In the blink of an eye, they actually came to Aeon City from the deepest part of the desert? Young master, now you are equivalent to the master of the Black Tortoise world. Then the fire dragon, the giant python, and the small beast, can they still break in now? Ning Mingi asked. Qin Feiyong was taken aback. He really hadn't thought about this question. Logically speaking, without my permission, they can't break in, but what? Everyone looked at him nervously. Although this Black Tortoise world is an independent small world, in some aspects, it is actually the same as a spatial divine object. If the other party's strength is strong enough, it will be difficult to stop him. The fire dragon and the giant python, I'm basically sure that they won't be able to come in again. But the small beast? It's really hard to say. Because its strength is too terrifying, it has mastered the power of law. Qin Feiyong said. Heard about it. Everyone's heart sank. But you don't have to worry too much. The small beast went to the 3rd floor. It shouldn't appear again. As for the giant python and the fire dragon, they didn't pose a threat to us before, and now they can't hurt us. Qin Feiyong said. Makes sense. Everyone nodded. Qin Feiyong looked at the willow tree and said, Give me the castle. Okay. The willow tree waved its hand, and the castle immediately flew out from between its eyebrows, flew in front of Qin Feiyong, and erased the blood contract. Qin Feiyong stretched out his hands and held the castle in his hands, secretly swearing that no matter what, he would not lose the castle again. Whoosh! After he dripped a drop of blood on it to claim ownership, the ancient castle disappeared into his glabella. With a thought from Qin Feiyong, Fatso and the others, as well as the white-eyed wolf and the other beasts, appeared one after another. What are you doing? Fatso looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyong said with a smile. What else? Of course, it's to remove your demon imprints. Can I? Everyone was stunned and asked. Of course. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he took off the clothes covering his chest. Everyone looked over and was pleasantly surprised to find that the devil mark on Qin Feiyong's chest had disappeared. The group of people instantly became excited. Especially Ning Mingi, Li Yun, Xueqi, and Willow Tree, their bodies couldn't help but tremble. Lu Zhang glanced at Ning Mingi and the others, then suddenly looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Little cousin, come here for a moment. After saying that, he soared into the air and flew out of the city. Qin Feiyong followed him suspiciously. The two of them, one in front and one behind,
arrived in the sky above the plains outside the city. What's wrong? Why are you being so mysterious? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Lu Zhang said, "Do you know that the slave imprints on Willow Tree and the others have disappeared?" "You're talking about this. When they were resurrected, I already knew that the slave imprints didn't come with them." Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "How can you still laugh? Do you know how big of a hidden danger this is?" Lu Zhang said angrily. "Hidden danger? Aren't you thinking too much? Isn't everyone quite amiable now? Look at Willow Tree. The ancient castle is on him, and I don't see him having any bad thoughts. And just now when I asked him to return it to me, he didn't say anything and just gave it to me." Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zhang said, "I've seen Willow Tree's loyalty and have never doubted it, but you'd better restrain Ning Mingi and the others." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Think about it, they have already reached stage 10 of the false god realm. Once the devil imprints are removed, they will immediately break through and become real war gods." Lu Zhang said in a deep voice. "That's a good thing. They will be of great help to us when they step into the war god realm." Qin Feiyang said. "Yes, it's indeed a good thing. But at the same time, it's also an extremely risky thing. Think about it, when they break through to the war god realm, without the restriction of the slave imprints and the devil imprints, will they still be respectful to you and listen to you? Let me tell you, a false god is different from a war god. How can someone who has stepped into the war god realm willingly submit to others, especially when your cultivation is lower than theirs?" Lu Zhang sneered. Qin Feiyang's expression stiffened, and he muttered, "They won't do such an ungrateful thing, right? After all, I was the one who let them be reborn. Don't be naive. Don't you know the cruelty of cultivation?" Lu Zhang snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang fell silent. After a while he said, "Then what do you think we should do? Either we use the slave imprint to control them again, or we don't help them remove the devil imprint. In short, we have to control everything in our own hands. This way, we won't be afraid of accidents. Of course, I'm not saying that we have to control them forever. After confirming that they really don't have any ulterior motives, just like the willow tree, we can remove the slave imprint." Lu Zhang said. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "You're right, we can't let our guard down. We can take this opportunity to test them." "Kid, you're quite smart." Lu Zhang laughed. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. The two turned around and quickly returned to the square. Lu Zhang silently walked to Lu Hong's side. Qin Feiyang stood in front, glancing at Ning Mingi and the others, and said with a smile, "You'll be able to remove the devil imprint soon. Are you very excited?" "Of course." Willow Tree nodded. Ning Mingi and the others were also full of smiles. "Removing the devil imprint is a small matter. But I have a question to ask you, and I hope you can answer me truthfully." Qin Feiyang said. "Young master, please ask." Willow Tree said. Qin Feiyang said, "If I say that I want to use the slave imprint to control you again, will you be willing?" Everyone was slightly stunned. "It doesn't matter." Willow Tree was the first to react. But Ning Mingi and the others hesitated. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and said disappointedly, "If you were like Willow Tree and didn't hesitate at all, I wouldn't control you anymore." "So you were testing." Willow Tree suddenly realized, turned around to look at Ning Mingi and the others, and coldly snorted, "So you have other thoughts? Young master exhausted his cultivation to save you. You really don't know how to be grateful." "It's not like that," Ning Mingi quickly said. "Then what is it? You guys are really good at acting. When young master saved you, what did you say? Swear to follow and never betray. Since you all swore to follow young master, then why are you afraid of the slave imprint? Since you're afraid, doesn't that mean you still have other thoughts?" Willow Tree angrily said. Everyone lowered their heads in silence, their faces full of shame. "I was right. Actually, what are you thinking? I know. Once the devil imprint is removed, you rank 10 false gods can immediately step into the war god realm. War gods still have to work for others. Just thinking about it makes you feel unreconciled, right?" Willow Tree coldly sneered. These words were exactly what Ning Mingi and the others were thinking. Lu Zhang secretly sneered. Little cousin, did you see that? This is the human heart. Sigh. Qin Feiyong let out a long sigh, looked at Ning Mingi and the others, and said, a forcibly picked melon is not sweet. I won't force you guys, those who are willing to stay, come to my side. Yu Huang said, what if they don't want to stay? Even if they don't want to stay, I will still help them remove the devil imprint and send them out of the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyong said, young master has already done his best. You guys think about it carefully. Willow Tree looked at Ning Mingi and the others and said, then strode to Qin Feiyong's side. This emperor thinks that following Qin boy will have a bright future. Yu Huang chuckled and also ran to Qin Feiyong's side. Ning Mingi, Li Yun, and the others looked at each other, unable to make up their minds. You used your cultivation to save them. Was it worth it? Inner demons saw this scene in the inner world and angrily said, it was worth it. At least Willow Tree and Yu Huang stayed by my side. There is a good saying, friends are not many, but understanding. In this life, being able to make a few close friends is already very good. Qin Feiyong laughed. Nonsense. The inner demon snorted through its nose. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly, looked at Ning Mingi and the others, and said, it seems that this is your choice, forget it, do as you wish. After saying that, he waved his hand, and the Heart of Origin appeared, passing through the hearts of the group of people one by one. Ning Mingi and the others hurriedly checked their hearts and were pleasantly surprised to find that the devil mark had really disappeared. Thank you, Brother Qin. If there is a chance, I, Li Yun, will definitely repay your kindness today. Li Yun bowed and said, it's nothing. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly, and then waved his hand, and the people of Fengtian Palace immediately disappeared. Because Li Yun's words were enough to represent his decision to leave the Black Tortoise realm. Ning Mingi glanced at Lu Zhang and the others, took a deep breath, looked at Qin Feiyong and bowed. This is the last time I call you young master. Young master, take care. Take care. Qin Feiyong smiled. Young master, wait. Suddenly, Zhao Tailai ran in front of Qin Feiyong and said, I want to stay. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Zhao Tailai, what are you doing? Ning Mingi said angrily. Zhao Tailai said, only by following the young master will I have a chance to avenge Xi Meng. You guys go. You're confused. Ning Mingi said angrily. Lu Zhang sneered, the Vanga League no longer exists, he is no longer one of your people. If he wants to stay, it is his freedom, what can you do? Ning Mingi glanced at Lu Zhang, looked at Zhao Tailai, and said, are you sure you want to stay? Zhao Tailai nodded. Young master, I have also decided to stay. At this time, Xueqi, who was standing in the crowd, gritted his teeth and stood out, looking at Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong was surprised. Ning Mingi glanced at Xueqi, then looked at Zhao Tailai, and said angrily, idiot, idiot, all idiots. Immediately, he looked at Qin Feiyong and said, send us out. His attitude changed in an instant. Not only did he not have the slightest respect, but it also made people feel that Qin Feiyong owed him millions. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the group of people from the Vanga League immediately disappeared. Fatso stepped forward and patted Zhao Tailai and Xueqi on the shoulder, and said with a smile, old Zhao, old Chui, believe in Fat Lord, you made the right choice. Zhao Tailai and Xueqi looked at each other and smiled, looked at everyone, and said, then in the future, please take care of us. Since you are staying, you are one of us. Taking care of you is necessary. White-eyed Wolf laughed. Lu Hong and the others were also smiling. Chapter 1669. Boom. Suddenly, a terrifying divine power rushed out of Zhao Tailai's body. Qin Feiyong and the others were taken aback for a moment before their faces were filled with ecstasy. This was a sign that Zhao Tailai was about to break through. Quickly retreat! Qin Feiyong shouted. Whoosh! The group of people suddenly rushed into the sky and left Aeon City. Zhao Tailai was also surprised. He sat cross-legged on the ground and closed his eyes. Boom! Crack! Above the sky, the wind gradually blew, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. What's going on? Could it be that he also has a heavenly tribulation? White-eyed Wolf said in surprise. This is just a vision of becoming a god. Not a heavenly tribulation. Only someone like my little cousin who defied the heavens and became a god would have a heavenly tribulation.
Lu Zheng said. Not necessarily.
Zhuge Mingyang also defied the heavens and became a god. But why didn't he have a heavenly tribulation?
Qin Feiyong said.
Lu Zheng asked, did you see him become a god with your own eyes? Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, if there really was a heavenly tribulation, the beasts in the Devil's Land would definitely have sensed it, and there would also be traces of the heavenly tribulation on the ground. But at that time, the Vanga League and Fengtian Palace investigated, but they didn't find any relevant information. Doesn't this mean that when he became a god, there was no heavenly tribulation?
Qin Feiyong said. Then I don't know. Lu Zheng shook his head.
Boom. Zhao Tailai's aura was also getting stronger and stronger. Aeon City had already begun to crack and collapse. Even the earth within a radius of tens of thousands of miles began to tremble violently. Abyssal cracks continued to appear and spread towards the end of the world at an astonishing speed.
Boom.
About 10 breaths passed. Aeon City had been razed to the ground and no longer existed. Accompanied by an even more terrifying aura, Zhao Tailai's body was suddenly enveloped in endless divine light. It was an extremely pure divine light without any impurities.
Boom.
Following closely, streaks of black divine power rolled out of his body like a tide, exuding a destructive aura.
Roar.
The next moment, following a loud roar, a huge ferocious beast soared into the air from behind him.
It was a Qilin.
It had the head of a lion, the antlers of a deer, the eyes of a tiger, the body of an elk, and the scales of a dragon. However, unlike the fire Qilin, its entire body was as black as ink and was surrounded by black flames.
This is an ink Qilin. Lu Zheng was shocked.
Did not expect that this Zhao Tailai actually activated the divine beast battle soul. There were many types of Qilins. Fire Qilin, blood Qilin, snow Qilin, ink Qilin, and so on. Among them, the fire Qilin was the rarest. Although the ink Qilin was inferior to the fire Qilin, it was still a type of Qilin and was a supreme divine beast. Those who possessed such a fighting soul were extremely rare. The black Qilin raised its head and roared. Black flames covered the sky. Very soon, its aura also began to transform. A pure aura of a divine beast was emitted.
Meanwhile, in the sky,
wisps of auspicious light fell and merged into the glabella of the black Qilin and Zhao Tailai. This is the gift of becoming a god. It said that after merging with this auspicious light, the person who becomes a god will be able to manifest a spirit. The fighting soul can also break out of its cocoon and evolve into a body of flesh and blood, born from my consciousness.
Lu Zheng said. A body of flesh and blood?
Isn't that equivalent to a true divine beast?
Qin Feiyong was puzzled.
That's right. However, even if it evolves into a body of flesh and blood, it's closely related to its master. When the master dies, the fighting soul will be annihilated as well.
Lu Zheng said.
Qin Feiyong said, what if it's a weapon soul or a fighting soul? For example, my crimson sword soul and the 9-leaf fire lotus? Lu Zheng said, they'll solidify as well. That's amazing. If a weapon soul solidifies, doesn't that mean it's a true divine weapon? The white-eyed wolf said in surprise.
That's right.
Lu Zheng nodded. There are so many benefits to becoming a god? The others exchanged glances. Their desire to become a god grew. When the auspicious light merged with Zhao Tailai and the black Qilin's foreheads, the phenomenon in the sky quickly dissipated. Zhao Tailai opened his eyes as well. His dark eyes shone with a divine light. They were like two bottomless pits that sucked in one's soul.
Did it work?
Qin Feiyong landed in front of Zhao Tailai and asked. MHM. Zhao Tailai nodded. He recalled his fighting soul and said, now, all that's left is to fuse with the auspicious light. Qin Feiyong asked, how long will it take to fuse with it? No one in the Black Tortoise realm has ever reached the War God realm.
That's why I don't know. Zhao Tailai shook his head.
Lu Zheng appeared out of thin air and said with a smile, it won't take long.
2 or 3 months at most. That long?
Zhao Tailai was surprised.
2 or 3 months. Is that long?
Lu Zheng was speechless. He said, if you think it's too long, you can go to your cousin's castle. A day outside is 10 days inside. 2 or 3 months will pass in no time.
All right. Zhao Tai nodded.
He then said, Ning Mingi and the others should have become true gods by now.
Young master, I think you should control them by force.
Why?
Qin Feiyong looked at him curiously. Think about it. Li Yun, Ning Mingi, and those deacons and elders have all reached rank 10 false god realm. If you control them, you'll have more than 20 war gods under your command. What kind of concept is that? Zhao Tai said. Brother Zhao is right. With more than 20 war gods, as long as that small beast doesn't appear, we can basically sweep through the divine ruins. Xueqi flew over and nodded. Don't think of the divine ruins as a simple matter. It's impossible for just 20 war gods to do it.
Lu Zheng said.
MHM? Zhao Tai and Xueqi looked at Lu Zheng in surprise and asked, Young master, do you know a lot about the divine ruins? Not really, but I know a thing or two. Even war gods might not be able to survive the second floor, let alone the legendary third floor. Lu Zheng said. Zhao Tai and Xueqi's pupils suddenly shrank. Although they had been in the divine ruins for so many years, they had always been in the Black Tortoise world and had never been to the second floor. Even so, it's still a pity to let Ning Mingi and the others go just like that. Zhao Tai said. If it's not yours, you can't force it.
There's nothing to pity.
Besides, do you really think that without the restriction of the devil mark, they can live freely after leaving the Black Tortoise world? Qin Feiyong sneered. Young master, what do you mean? Zhao Tai was surprised. That's right. The fire dragon and the giant python won't let them go. Leaving the Black Tortoise world means death for them. Even if they don't die, their days will be very difficult. Qin Feiyong said. They deserve it. They don't deserve sympathy. Willow Tree coldly snorted. The white-eyed wolf said, Little Qin Zi, can you see if they're still outside? They shouldn't be.
When the inner demons and I were still in the main hall, we already went out.
As soon as we went out, the principal force wanted to send us to the second floor. Qin Feiyong pondered. Already went out? The white-eyed wolf was taken aback. Then after we went out, where did we end up? The place where we first entered the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyong said. The white-eyed wolf's eyes lit up and urged, Quickly take us out to have a look. Zhao Tai and Xueqi also had a look of yearning. Okay. Qin Feiyong nodded and looked at Zhao Tai. There's a volcano outside. Old Zhao, create a divine barrier to protect everyone. Although they would be sent to the second floor if they went out now, as long as they brought everyone into the Black Tortoise world in time, they would be fine. Hearing Qin Feiyong's words, Zhao Tai waved his hand and a barrier suddenly appeared. Then, Qin Feiyong led everyone out of the Black Tortoise world and descended above the sea of fire. Boom! As soon as they appeared, they felt a terrifying divine power. What's going on? The group of people was surprised and quickly scanned their surroundings. Their expressions were suddenly stunned. They saw that Ning Mingi, Li Yun, and the others were still here. What's going on? Why weren't they sent to the second floor? Qin Feiyong was suspicious and looked up at the sky. Even if he and Willow Tree came out now, there was no principal force.
Boss, what's going on?
Fatso asked suspiciously.
I don't know either.
Qin Feiyong shook his head and looked at Ning Mingi and the others again. Ning Mingi, Li Yun's wife, as well as the deacons and elders, were all sitting cross-legged on the ground at this moment, exuding a shocking divine power. In the sky, there were also strange phenomena. Obviously, these people were also breaking through. As for the other false gods, they surrounded Ning Mingi and the others with vigilant looks on their faces. They had already noticed the appearance of Qin Feiyong and the others at the first moment. However, there was no longer any respect in his eyes. On the contrary, they looked at Qin Feiyong as if they were guarding against a thief. Looking at the eyes of those people, Qin Feiyong felt quite uncomfortable. Anyway, he was the savior of these people. Even if they parted ways now, there was no need to guard against him like this, right? When others faced their savior, they would usually repay evil with kindness. But this group of people repaid kindness with evil. How ridiculous! Time passed bit by bit. Ning Mingi and the others successfully broke through one after another and stepped into the true war god realm. Li Yun stood up, restrained his aura, looked at Qin Feiyong, and said with a smile,
Brother Qin, this should be the first time you've seen so many people become gods together.
Qin Feiyang nodded.
Ning Mingi also stood up and said with a high and mighty attitude, witnessing us become gods with your own eyes is also an opportunity for you. Fatso raised his eyebrows and said, why don't you say that it's a fortune?
Fortune? Wasn't this clearly humiliating Qin Feiyang?
Ning Mingi said with a smile, it's not an exaggeration to say that it's a fortune.
Everyone, am I right?
The deacons and elders nodded one after another, their faces full of smug smiles. Now they were all war gods. Qin Feiyang was only a false god. War gods and false gods were completely from two different worlds. Therefore, they no longer took Qin Feiyang and the others to heart. Willow Tree glanced at the group of people, his eyes full of disgust, and said, look at your faces now, you're a typical villain intoxicated by success.
Chapter 1670.
Touch me. You even dare to humiliate the young master who saved your life.
Is there anything you don't dare to do?
Tell me the truth.
I, Willow Tree, have never seen a villain like you in my entire life.
Willow Tree sneered. Ning Mingi's eyes darkened as he said word by word, say it again if you dare.
So what if I said it?
Ungrateful.
Do you still think you're right?
Willow Tree shouted. You're courting death. I'm now a war god. Killing you is as easy as crushing an ant. Ning Mingi said with a sinister smile. Even if you break through to the war god level, you can't hide your vile heart. Willow Tree sneered. Looks like you really want to die. Ning Mingi's eyes were filled with killing intent.
Brother Ning, calm down.
Li Yun reached out to stop Ning Mingi. She looked up at Qin Feiyang and then at Willow Tree and said, actually, saving us is what Brother Qin should do.
What?
Saving you is what I should do.
Willow Tree was stunned.
Fatso and the others' mouths twitched. They couldn't figure out how someone could say such a thing so naturally. We were killed by the small beast because we followed Brother Qin.
Shouldn't Brother Qin save us?
Li Yun asked. So fucking shameless. If you didn't follow boss, you would have died in the hands of the fire dragon and the giant python. Fatso couldn't help but shout. Didn't we fight against the fire dragon and the giant python because of Brother Qin? In other words,
if Brother Qin didn't instigate us, would we do this?
For this, I lost 3 sons.
Brother Ning's 2 sons were also killed.
I think the price we've paid is already big enough. Although my words will make you all very angry, they are the truth, right?
Li Yun smiled.
Li Yun, you're going too far. Zhao Tai frowned.
Too much?
Although our Black Tortoise world is constantly in conflict, we have never offended the protectors. But because of Qin Feiyang's arrival, everything became a mess. The person you should be blaming now is him, not me.
Furthermore, your daughter died because of him.
Li Yun said.
Zhao Tai frowned.
He felt disgusted with Li Yun and the others in front of him.
Old Zhao, don't waste your breath on them.
Fatso waved his hand and looked at Li Yun and the others. He said calmly, actually, after saying so much, it's nothing more than saying that you've already obtained your freedom and don't need to ask boss for help anymore.
Why do you have to be so hypocritical? Fatso, it's rare for you to finally speak human words.
You're right. If they hadn't removed the devil mark and left the Black Tortoise world now, would they dare to be so presumptuous?
I'm afraid they can't wait to curry favor with us.
The white-eyed wolf joked. Lu Hong and the others, as well as the double-winged snow eagle and the other beasts, looked at Li Yun and the others with ridicule. The faces of Li Yun and the others were quite gloomy. The atmosphere here was very solemn. Enough.
Suddenly,
Qin Feiyang, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, spoke, breaking the atmosphere here. You used me to obtain your freedom, and I used you to obtain the Black Tortoise world. It can be considered as each taking what he needs. So there's no need to push all the blame on me. Because this will only make you look particularly funny, especially ridiculous, like clowns.
Qin Feiyang said calmly.
His expression was neither sad nor happy. He looked like he didn't care at all. Hearing these words, the faces of Li Yun and the others turned green and red, and they looked very ugly. Qin Feiyang looked at Li Yun and smiled faintly. To be honest, I used to admire you very much. You're straightforward and not sloppy, But now that I see your face, I know that I was wrong in the past. In fact, you're more hypocritical than the people of the Vanga League. Li Yun's face darkened. Okay, let's say goodbye here. I hope that the next time we meet, we won't be enemies. Take care of yourselves. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he was ready to lead everyone into the Black Tortoise world. What a waste of time. But suddenly, an angry voice sounded in the sky. Giant Python. Qin Feiyong's pupils shrank. He looked up and saw the giant python and the fire dragon appear out of thin air in the void above. Willow Tree and the others immediately became vigilant. When Li Yun, Ning Mingi and the others saw the giant python and the fire dragon appear, their expressions changed and they said angrily, "Didn't you go to the third level with the small beast?" It was because they thought that the giant python and the fire dragon also went to the third level with the small beast that they dared to run out. To the third level? The giant python and the fire dragon were stunned. Then they looked at Ning Mingi and the others as if they were looking at idiots. The giant python said contemptuously, "You will never understand how terrifying the third level is. In today's world, only the creator and the beast god dare to enter. As for us, we can only walk around the door." "It's so dangerous," Qin Feiyong murmured. The giant python glanced at everyone and shook its head. "I thought that you would fight, but after waiting for a long time, I didn't see you do anything. How boring." Qin Feiyong was stunned and frowned. "You controlled the power of the rules, so they weren't sent to the second level?" "Of course. Other than me, who else can control the power of the rules of the miracles?" "As soon as they came out of the Black Tortoise realm, I had already sensed it and came here immediately. When I heard their discussion and knew that they had fallen out with you, I thought of a plan. The plan was to let them stay here and break through to the War God realm. When you came out and saw them, you would definitely fight. But I didn't expect you to be so tolerant. They humiliated you like this, but you didn't do anything?" The giant python said, looking extremely angry. "It's not that I can tolerate it, it's that I don't care. Because fighting with people like them will dirty my hands." Qin Feiyong said indifferently. "On this point, this sovereign agrees with you. I sacrificed so much to help them regain their freedom, but what did they do? Not only did they not know how to be grateful, but they even mocked you? To be honest, even I sympathize with you." The giant python laughed. "And then?" Qin Feiyong asked. "Then, this sovereign will teach them a lesson on your behalf. These people who don't care about morality are just wasting air by living." The giant python's eyes were filled with killing intent. Boom! The next moment, waves of power of the rules fell from the sky and locked onto Ning Mingi and the others. The group of people changed their expressions and quickly counterattacked. But there was no suspense. Except for Ning Mingi and the others who had broken through to the War God realm, the other fake gods were instantly killed by the power of the rules. Not even a strand of hair was left. "How terrifying," Zhao Tai Lai murmured. Without the ancient castle and a divine artifact like Chong Shui, even if they broke through to the War God realm, it was impossible to resist the power of the rules. Ning Mingi and the others also tried their best to resist, but it was to no avail. The power of the rules continued to fall. Any means, such as battle souls, divine power, and divine arts were disintegrated one after another. A sense of despair shrouded their hearts. Li Yun was bleeding all over and shouted anxiously, "Brother Qin, quickly help us." Fatso and the others were stunned. He actually asked them for help? Where was his shame? The giant python looked at Qin Feiyong and said with a smile, "I believe you won't intervene now." "Go ahead." Qin Feiyong smiled indifferently. "Brother Qin, we were wrong. We are bastards. Please, for the sake of us fighting side by side, please help us." Not only Li Yun, the deacons, elders, and even Ning Mingi kept begging. "The young master helped you get rid of the devil mark because you fought side by side. But how did you repay him? Now you still want to ask the young master to help you. Is it possible?" Willow Tree sneered with a gloating face. Hearing this, the group of people suddenly regretted it. "You won't save us, right? Then don't blame us for being ruthless." Ning Mingi roared. Willow Tree and the others were stunned again. Didn't they turn hostile long ago, and they still turned hostile? Sure enough, they were a group of shameless old men. Ning Mingi looked up at the Guardian and shouted, "Lord Guardian, please let us go, We are willing to work for you to eradicate Qin Feiyang. Yes. We have all broken through to the war god realm. With our help, killing him is as easy as turning your hand. Li Yun and the others also hurriedly shouted. Haha. The giant python and fire dragon looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Lord, what are you laughing at? The group of people was suspicious. Willow Tree said, I'm laughing at your stupidity. That's right. Would the dignified guardian care about war gods like you? I'm afraid that in their eyes, you are not even as good as ants. Only you will take yourself seriously. Fatso and the others also mocked. Even Zhao Tai couldn't help but sneer. You think that breaking through to the war god realm is so awesome, but in fact, you are just a few self-righteous clowns. Damn it! Hearing that, Ning Mingi and the others suddenly felt as if they had fallen into a bottomless abyss. Sure enough. You are not on the same level as Qin Feiyang. No, you are not even as good as the people around him. Because even the people around him can guess what we are thinking, and you can't guess it. You are so stupid that you are cute. If you are Qin Feiyang, this lord will definitely agree without hesitation and spare you. Unfortunately, you are not Qin Feiyang. This lord also doesn't want to keep a group of idiots around me, because idiots usually can't do anything right, but are good at spoiling things. The most important thing is that you are a group of white-eyed wolves. What if one day you bite this lord? At that time, this lord won't even have a place to cry. Moreover, you have eaten this lord's flesh, which is absolutely unforgivable. The giant python's face was full of disdain. With a flash of murderous intent in its eyes, the rule force suddenly fell. No. Young master, we were wrong, really wrong, save us. We will be your cattle and horses. The group of people roared in despair, and even their intestines were green with regret. However, Qin Feiyang still had a cold face, without even a trace of sympathy. Ah! Rumble! Accompanied by a series of shrill screams, the group of people were bombarded by the rule force one after another, and not even their bones were left. Zhao Tai shook his head and sighed. They have just broken through to the war god realm and haven't even experienced the taste of being a war god, but they were already killed by the guardian. I think they must be very unwilling. They only have themselves to blame. Even death can't wipe out their crimes. Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly. Chapter 1671. The giant python's methods shocked everyone. A few dozen divine gods of battle were killed as easily as slaughtering dogs. With such strength, without a heaven-defying artifact like Xueqi, it was indeed difficult to compete with it. The giant python turned its gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang. Young master, be careful. Zhao Tai hurriedly stood in front of Qin Feiyang. Don't be nervous. If it wanted to attack me, it wouldn't have waited until now. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Even if the giant python really wanted to attack him, he was not afraid. Although Xueqi was gone, there was still the ancient castle and now the Black Tortoise realm. So, unless Small Beast came in person, it was almost impossible for the giant python to kill him. He believed that the giant python was also very clear about this point. The giant python looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, How are you going to thank me for killing these unscrupulous fellows for you? Qin Feiyang said, If you can return Wang Yu to me, I will really be grateful to you and even become friends with you. Haha. Friend? Are you worthy of being my friend? The giant python's eyes were full of ridicule and said, If you want me to hand over Wang Yu, you have to give me something in exchange. What do you want? Qin Feiyang said. The giant python said word by word, the ancient castle, the Black Tortoise realm, or your life. You have a big appetite, but unfortunately, I won't give you any of these things. Qin Feiyang said. The giant python said, So you don't care about Wang Yu's life? I do. Qin Feiyang said. Then what are you hesitating for? The giant python said angrily. Qin Feiyang said, I didn't hesitate, I've already said it very clearly, I won't give it to you. It seems that you really don't care. The giant python laughed sinisterly. I care. Qin Feiyang nodded. Are you playing with me? Since you care about Wang Yu, then why are you still guarding those worldly possessions? The giant python said angrily. My life isn't a mere worldly possession, is it? As for the ancient castle and the black tortoise world, although they are mere worldly possessions, they are of great significance to me.
Qin Feiyang said. Let's not talk about the castle for now. You've just obtained the black tortoise world. What does it mean to you? The giant python frowned. A beast like you won't understand. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Without the black tortoise world, he would be sent to the second layer. At that time, he would not be able to find Yan Wei, Wang Zicheng, and the others. Wang Zicheng aside, let's focus on Yan Wei. All these years, Yan Wei had been lurking by the imperial tutor's side. God knows how many hardships he had gone through. If something happened to Yan Wei in the miracle, his conscience would be condemned for the rest of his life. You still dare to insult me? You really don't know the meaning of death. The giant python's eyes were as gloomy as water. Did I insult you? You are an animal, Qin Feiyang said. Impudent. You really won't cry until you're in the coffin. The giant python was furious and shouted, Fire Dragon, get Wang Yuer out for me. Yes. Fire Dragon nodded. The void in front of him shook, and a beautiful figure immediately appeared. Who else could it be but Wang Yuer? Feiyang, don't worry about me. As soon as Wang Yuer appeared and saw Qin Feiyang, she immediately shouted. Shut her up. The giant python shouted. Fire Dragon immediately activated his divine power and sealed Wang Yuer's mouth. Qin Feiyang glared at the giant python and said, Let her go, let's have a fair fight. Do you think I'm that idiot, Fire Dragon? I have a bargaining chip in my hand, but I don't use it. Why would I fight you one-on-one? Is there something wrong with my head? The giant python sneered. Fire Dragon raised his eyebrows and glanced at the giant python. A trace of hostility flashed in the depths of his eyes. Qin Feiyang sneered and said, If you don't dare, then you don't dare. Why do you have to say so much nonsense? The giant python was not angry and said indifferently, I'll give you a choice now. Either you give me the castle or the black tortoise realm, or you collect Wang Yuer's corpse. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Yuer. Woo-woo. Wang Yuer shook her head desperately. Her pale face was also full of anxiety. Although he did not know what she was saying, as long as he was not a fool, he could see that she was telling Qin Feiyang to ignore her. Sigh. Qin Feiyang sighed and said sadly, If you had listened to me and killed Wang Yuanshan back then, how would this have happened? Wang Yuer calmed down, and her eyes were full of pain. Although she could not say it, everyone knew how she was feeling at this moment. In fact, it was not her fault. It was Wang Yuanshan who did not change, and she was also very upset. The giant python said impatiently, Don't put on a sad show here, quickly hand it over. Qin Feiyang said coldly, If you dare to touch a hair of her, I will make you pay the price. Haha. You actually dare to threaten me. It seems that you still don't understand the situation. The giant python laughed wildly, and a wisp of divine power emerged and entered Wang Yuer's lower abdomen. Puff. Immediately, a bloody hole appeared, penetrating from the front to the back, and blood spurted out like a pillar. Wang Yuer's face was distorted by the pain. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands. This seems to be more than just hurting a hair of hers, but what can you do to me? The giant python looked down at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Qin Feiyang was silent, his eyes flashing with shocking killing intent. Don't look fierce, it's useless in front of me. The only way is to hand over the castle or the black tortoise realm. I will count to 3. If you don't hand it over, then I will collect her corpse. No. I'm afraid there won't even be a corpse left. 1, 2, 3. The giant python was in high spirits, as if everything was under its control. However, just as the word 3 left its mouth, a sudden change occurred. The fire dragon's eyes suddenly surged with killing intent. It took Wang Yuer away, raised its giant tail, and slapped the giant python's back fiercely. Moreover, it used all its strength. Puff! It was caught off guard. The giant python immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, the snake scales on its back were all shattered, and its flesh was a mess. A few of the divine bones on its back were also broken. Qin Feiyang and the others were surprised. What was going on? The fire dragon actually attacked the giant python?
The giant python was also dumbfounded. The fire dragon suddenly roared, "Qin Feiyang, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and do it." As soon as it finished speaking, it raised its giant tail again, and divine power surged out, smashing toward the giant python's head. Qin Feiyang shuddered and sent Fatso and the others to the ancient castle, leaving only Zhao Tai Lai, Willow Tree, Chui Li, and Yu Huang. After all, this was a battle between war gods. Fatso and the others couldn't interfere at all. Instead, they would implicate everyone. Immediately after, Qin Feiyang took out the ancient castle, and 3 types of fake god power poured out, entering the ancient castle, and the ancient castle immediately entered a state of revival. Zhao Tai Lai, Willow Tree, Chui Li, and Yu Huang also immediately activated their divine power and fake god power to revive the ancient castle. Boom! The ancient castle's aura immediately soared crazily. Although only Qin Feiyang and the others revived the ancient castle this time, the speed of revival was several times faster than the previous time when more than 100 fake gods were revived at the same time. All of this was because of Zhao Tai Lai's divine power. Divine power and fake god power were on completely different levels. Fake god power could only barely revive divine artifacts. But divine power was enough to revive them. "Let's kill together." Qin Feiyang roared and rushed into the sky like a bolt of lightning, his killing intent soaring to the heavens. In the blink of an eye, high up in the sky, the giant python finally came to its senses and suddenly turned around to stare at the fire dragon's raised giant tail. It was immediately furious and roared, "How dare you offend your superior? Humph! If it weren't for that incident back then, you wouldn't be the guardian." The fire dragon snorted and smashed its dragon tail down crazily. A large part of the void was annihilated. "You're courting death." The giant python was unable to restrain its anger and raised its tail. Boom! The 2 giant tails collided with a loud bang and shattered at the same time with a crack. Divine blood dyed the sky red. What? Qin Feiyang and the others were shocked. They had always thought that the giant python's strength would be stronger than the fire dragon's. After all, the giant python was the guardian. But they never expected that the 2 beasts were actually on par. "Good chance," Zhao Tai Lai secretly shouted. "That's right." Qin Feiyang nodded. A cold light flickered in his eyes as he activated the walk formula and instantly landed behind the giant python. Then, he grabbed the ancient castle and smashed it on the giant python's head. Roar! The giant python immediately wailed in pain as its head was split open. "You guys are really unforgivable." The giant python roared in the sky as rule force fell from the sky like a waterfall. "You guys block the rule force, I will kill it." The fire dragon shouted. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded and waved his hand. The ancient castle rushed into the sky and collided with the rule force. Boom! Between heaven and earth, there was a loud explosion. The ancient castle and the rule force continued to collide, and the terrifying aura surged in all directions. What a terrifying divine artifact! The fire dragon's pupils constricted. Roar! The next moment, a scorching sun rose from the fire dragon's back. In the scorching sun, a dragon shadow circled and danced, and the dragon's roar was deafening. That's right. This was the fire dragon's god art. The giant python's eyes trembled as it glared at the fire dragon. "Are you serious? Do you think I'm joking right now?" The fire dragon sneered, and the dragon shadow roared out from the blazing sun, carrying with it a world-destroying dragon's might as it pounced towards the giant python. "Bastard!" The giant python roared as black fog surged around its body. Whoosh! The next moment, a wave of arrows shot out from the black fog, heading straight for the dragon shadow. The arrows were densely packed. Each arrow was completely black as if it was forged by a divine weapon, exuding a shocking sharpness. Clang! All the arrows bombarded the dragon shadow's body. The dragon shadow was collapsing. The arrows were also collapsing. In the end, it was a situation where both sides suffered. Zhao Tai Lai said in surprise, "The giant python is also a guardian. Why can't it beat the fire dragon?" It seems that this fire dragon is not simple. And listening to the fire dragon's previous words, it seems that he has some unknown grudges with the giant python. Qin Feiyang said. "What words?" Yu Huang was suspicious. Didn't the fire dragon just say that if it wasn't for that incident back then, the giant python wouldn't have become a guardian? The two of them are comparable in strength. I think they might have been competitors in the past. Qin Feiyang guessed. In other words, the one who won in the end was the giant python, and the fire dragon has a grudge in his heart? Willow Tree asked. That's possible. Qin Feiyang nodded. After the second confrontation, the giant python and the fire dragon's injuries were even more serious. Blood rained down from the shattered giant tail. Today is the day you die. The fire dragon roared and stared at the giant python, his eyes filled with a bone-piercing killing intent. Boom! All of a sudden. Chapter 1672. The moment this divine might appeared, Yu Huang's body started to tremble. What's wrong with you? Willow Tree noticed its abnormality and asked suspiciously. However, Yu Huang turned a deaf ear and stared at the fire dragon with fear in its eyes. Roar! The next moment, accompanied by an earth-shattering dragon roar, a giant dragon surrounded by divine flames rushed out of the fire dragon's body. The dragon's might was vast and mighty, shocking everyone. This is... Willow Tree and the others were surprised. This giant dragon was also a fire dragon. But the dragon's might it emitted was several times more terrifying than the fire dragon itself. At the same time, the purple gold dragon soul in Qin Feiyang's Sea of Qi also opened its eyes and two rays of divine light burst out. Following closely, an even more shocking scene appeared. The purple gold dragon soul actually rushed out of the Sea of Qi by itself and suspended above Qin Feiyang's head, looking at the giant dragon across the air. What's going on? The sudden change caught Qin Feiyang off guard. This was the first time the purple gold dragon soul had appeared by itself. What exactly was that giant dragon? How could it interest the purple gold dragon soul? You actually activated the ancestral dragon fighting soul. Suddenly, a voice rang out. It was the giant python's voice. Qin Feiyang and the others immediately looked over. They saw the huge python raising its head and staring at the huge dragon. Its huge eyes were filled with fear. Ancestral dragon fighting soul? Willow Tree frowned. That's right, that's the ancestral dragon fighting soul. Yu Huang said in a low voice. What's the ancestral dragon? Xueqi asked. The ancestral dragon is the first dragon born in the world. Whether it's the golden dragon, fire dragon, earth dragon, water dragon, ice dragon, black dragon, white dragon, silver dragon, purple dragon, etc., the first dragonborn is called the ancestral dragon. In other words, these ancestral dragons are the ancestors of all kinds of divine dragons. When the later generations of divine dragons face the ancestral dragon, no matter how strong their cultivation is, they will feel a pressure from the soul. Similarly, the appearance of the ancestral dragon will also create a huge pressure for us snakes, just like me and the giant python now. This is an instinctive fear. Yu Huang said. I see. Willow Tree understood. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the purple gold dragon soul. It turned out that the purple gold dragon soul was interested because it encountered the ancestral dragon. This fire dragon is not simple. It actually activated the ancestral dragon fighting soul. Rumor has it that as long as a divine dragon activates the ancestral dragon fighting soul, he will eventually become an existence on par with the ancestral dragon. Yu Huang. How can I tell if the other party is the ancestral dragon? Xueqi asked curiously. Yu Huang said, look at its glabella. There is a divine flame pattern. Qin Feiyang and the rest looked at the glabella of the ancestral dragon fighting soul. There was indeed a palm-sized divine flame pattern in the middle of the fighting soul's glabella. It was like a fire lotus, exuding an amazing charm. However, the divine flame pattern and the dragon scales of the fighting soul were of the same color. It was hard to notice if one did not look carefully. The fire dragon looked at the giant python in disdain and said, I am the most honorable divine dragon in the world, and you are just a bug. What right do you have to ride on my head and show off? The giant python's eyes trembled. The aura of the ancestral dragon made it fearful and fearful. It could not muster any courage to fight. This was the pressure from the soul. Little bug, prepare to die. The fire dragon sneered. The ancestral dragon fighting soul swooped down. It was like the lord of all beasts had descended.
The terrifying aura made the giant python tremble. It even forgot to resist. In the nick of time, it shuddered and roared. So what if your bloodline is noble? I control the power of laws and am the only one in the world. Killing you is as easy as slaughtering a dog. As the giant python's words landed, a deafening explosion exploded in the sky. Waves of power of laws poured down from the sky like a torrent. The terrifying aura was enough to destroy the world. The fire dragon's pupils constricted and he hurriedly roared, Qin Feiyong, quickly block the power of laws. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed and he said, Give Wang Yuer to me first. The fire dragon said anxiously, After killing the giant python, I will naturally return her to you. Your words can't be trusted. Qin Feiyong shook his head. Damn it! The fire dragon was furious. Qin Feiyong said in a deep voice, If you don't give Wang Yuer to me, I will bring everyone back to the Black Tortoise world now. Do you know what the situation is now? Is a mere woman as important as the guardian? The fire dragon was flustered and exasperated as he roared again and again. But in the current situation, he didn't dare to offend Qin Feiyong. Because he had already come this far, he had to get rid of the giant python. Otherwise, he would be in trouble. Swish! He gritted his teeth and the void in front of him shook. Wang Yuer appeared and immediately released his divine power to protect her. Immediately after, it blew a breath of air, and a gust of wind instantly appeared. It swept Wang Yuer up and flew towards Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong took a step forward and grabbed Wang Yuer. Without saying a word, he sent her to the Black Tortoise world. Quick! The fire dragon urged. Qin Feiyong glanced at the fire dragon and immediately brought the ancient castle to meet the power of laws. Zhao Tai-Lai and the others followed him. Their divine power and fake divine power continuously poured into the ancient castle. The might of the ancient castle had already reached a certain limit. Boom! With a loud bang, the ancient castle and the power of laws collided. The power of laws was immediately shattered. No! The giant python roared in despair. At the same time, the ancestral dragon fighting soul arrived. The giant python screamed and its body was torn apart on the spot. Blood splattered all over the sky. Haha! You didn't expect that in the end, you would still die in my hands. Disappear completely for me. Fire Dragon raised its head and laughed wildly. He opened his mouth wide. A gust of wind immediately blew in this world. Immediately after, the flesh and blood of the giant python was sucked into the Fire Dragon's mouth and swallowed completely. This scene caused Qin Feiyong's heart to palpitate. Although the giant python's body was torn apart, with its cultivation, it wouldn't die. So, the fire dragon had swallowed a war god alive. As soon as the giant python died, another power of laws descended from the sky, firmly locking onto Qin Feiyong and the others. However, this power of laws wasn't to kill them, but to send them to the second floor. Qin Feiyong looked up at the power of laws, took a deep breath, and looked at the fire dragon. It is a guardian after all. Aren't you afraid of angering the creator of the small beast and the miracle? The creator isn't at the miracle at all. And the beast god is now studying Chong Shui on the third floor. He doesn't have time to care about the things here. As for the death of the giant python, when the beast god investigates, I can tell him that you killed it. The fire dragon laughed. Qin Feiyong sneered and said, a dignified war god actually wants to do some shady business of framing others. Truly admirable. But in the face of such sarcasm, the fire dragon wasn't angry at all. Qin Feiyong frowned. Then why did you kill it? The fire dragon said, because it was the one who took away my position as a guardian. What? Qin Feiyong was surprised. In the past I was the true guardian of the miracle. But because of something, the giant python ran to inform the beast god. In a rage, the beast god stripped me of my authority as a guardian and ordered me to guard the entrance of the Black Tortoise world. This matter has made me very displeased. You should also be able to see that I'm actually much stronger than it. But because it replaced me as the new guardian and can control the power of laws, I didn't dare to do anything to it. And this time, it actually called me an idiot in front of me? That's simply unforgivable. The fire dragon laughed. So, you borrowed my hand to get rid of the giant python. Then, you can once again gain the attention of the small beast and become the guardian of the miracle. Qin Feiyong said. Yes. Now that you also control the Black Tortoise world, you should be able to understand what it feels like to control the power of laws. Those who control the power of laws are the true gods. The fire dragon said. Qin Feiyong did not deny this point. He took a deep breath and said, Wang Yuanshan, the Nether Hall, and the people of the Heavenly Sun Empire, where are they? You want to know? Go find them yourself. The fire dragon laughed mockingly and put away the ancestral dragon fighting soul. He turned around and streaked across the sky, disappearing like a bolt of lightning. Zhao Tai stared at the direction where the fire dragon disappeared, murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Young master, why don't we just kill it? The power of laws is coming soon. How can we kill it? Qin Feiyong shook his head and put away the purple gold dragon soul and the ancient castle. He then led Zhao Tai, Yu Huang, and the other two into the Black Tortoise world. Little cousin, what's the result? Why did the fire dragon and the giant python kill each other? In the sky above the vanished Aeon City. Seeing Qin Feiyong and the others appear, Lu Zhang and the others immediately surrounded them and asked at once. The giant python is dead. Qin Feiyong said. Dead. Everyone was stunned. Qin Feiyong briefly explained the situation. So there is such a grudge. No wonder the fire dragon would sneak attack the giant python. Is power really that important? After listening, Lu Hong shook her head and sighed. After experiencing so many things, you still don't understand? For some people, power is more important than life. Lu Zhang said. Sigh, I really hope we can live in a world without disputes and desires. Lu Hong sighed deeply. That's impossible. Just like this Black Tortoise world. Even if it is now controlled by Little Cousin, it is absolutely impossible for him to create a world without disputes and desires. In short, as long as there are people and living creatures, there will definitely be fighting and death. Little cousin, don't you think so? Lu Zhang looked at Qin Feiyong and said. Qin Feiyong nodded. Suddenly, a burst of fragrance came to his nose. Following closely, a beautiful figure ran out of the crowd and threw herself into Qin Feiyong's arms. It was Wang Yuer. Seeing this, the others were tactful and kept silent. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I'm always causing you trouble. If something really happens to you this time, I will hate myself to death. Wang Yuer hugged Qin Feiyong tightly, fearing that if she loosened her grip, Qin Feiyong would disappear in front of her eyes. Her face was full of self-blame. Qin Feiyong raised his arm and wanted to hug Wang Yuer, but he didn't know if he should do so. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.